With Chu-do as
Books.
support, the man finally exerted all his strength at this point, leaving the two children pulled back to the shore as a group.
Wake up, Jiabo, wake up. Our little one is awake too. Thank heavens, thank the Bodhisattva for protection.
On the shore, two women held their children who had just awakened, crying and laughing. Nearby, another woman stepped forward and lightly slapped a child's bottom. You wouldn't listen, shouldn't swim, you nearly lost your life. The child bared teeth, eyes wide, but did not dare argue. He knew the situation was serious, a few slaps and scolding were inevitable, and there was no way around it, so his face showed pain. At this moment, a woman who had received the news arrived, pushing people aside, rescued the two children, one of them rushing forward. Kwang Kwang, what's wrong? Wake up quickly. But no matter how she called, the child kept eyes shut. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation had been abandoned, retreating first, shaking head at others, meaning the child had no breath, no pulse, could not be saved.
Doctor? Ambulance, the woman shouted. Everyone avoided eye contact. Chu Lam stepped forward. Police have been notified, ambulance is on the way. Why didn't you call sooner? The woman roared, pouring all grief and indignation onto Chu Lam. Chu Lam's tone became cold. When the children went into the water, I tried to stop them. Told them not to swim, only adults supervising could allow it. Jia Kwang didn't listen, lured other children secretly, only safe if not detected. Now, he wants to shirk responsibility. Lies. Kwang Kwang's mother refused to believe, my child is so obedient, how could he not listen? Chu Lam, mother, does she understand her own child? She didn't argue, just asked the awakened child, speak. Little Fat spoke up, Chu Lam's sister didn't let us swim, Kwang Xie said sneak out, nothing happens if not caught. Those who don't go are cowards. On shore, I told him to stretch before swimming, he didn't listen, scolded me as a girl. Short swim, he cramped, couldn't move. Others rescuing also cramped. I couldn't save them, had to call for help. Nonsense. My child wouldn't do that. Kwang Kwang's mother rejected. The other three children said, fat kid not lying. Kwang Xie still swam furthest, cramped first. If Kwang Xie had agreed to play differently then, if he cramped, everyone would go ashore, call for adults, it wouldn't be like this. You are trying to shirk responsibility, pushing it onto Kwang Kwang? Kwang Kwang's mother agitated, you tricked me. Meanwhile, CPR for over 10 minutes, along with Kwang Kwang, another child still had no breath. The mother went mad, pinched Kwang Kwang's hair, crying, it's your fault. Why let my child lead into the water? My child didn't want to live, why pull him down? Not Kwang Kwang leading. You are deliberately avoiding responsibility. Both women cried, fighting in a mess. Van Han received the information. Others watched the two women shake out their hair, scalp tingling, didn't dare intervene. Police arrived in time, separated the two, stopping the commotion. Chu-do observed everything, whispered, is the rescued boy okay? He's fine, Chu Lam smirked, with so many people here, he went down to save, rescued his own and two others, police didn't even award a flag, still fine. All good. Chu-do said nothing more. The surviving children ran to Van Han, bowed, apologized, sorry, sister, shouldn't have disobeyed. Van Han patted Little Fat's head, be careful with friends. Little Fat didn't think much, but encouraged by friends, followed along. The other three promised, won't do again. Police collected evidence, Chu-do and Van Han signed the rental contract. Due to the accidental drowning, some families made a fuss, once. Things settled, it was already dark. Chu-do didn't stay overnight, bought minimal necessities for the temporary place. Next day, took half day off, packed, moved. Van Han returned home to pack, then came here to stay. Slept well. Since the weather changed, Chu-do hadn't slept so well for long, woke next day full of energy, radiant, completely different from before. Despite the hard work, he organized quickly, hired a tricycle to move belongings. The landlord watched regretfully.
Chu Lam invited them to celebrate moving in. Van Han and Chu Du agreed.
No need for formality, Van Han said. All family, Chu Du said.
Chu Lam insisted. Yesterday took you to see the room, ended up saving someone in water, must invite to eat.
Chu Du did not refuse, looked at Van Han. What about you? Free time, let's go. Van Han agreed. Chu Lam happily said, this restaurant we've been many times, flavor excellent. Hot day, aircon, beer, barbecue, real life.
Chu Du sighed softly. Compared to before, life was just a little upheaval, spending a bit more. He glanced at Chu Lam, smiled, done.
Knowing you're rich, I want to eat fully to spite you. Eat. Chu Lam boldly, today eat full before leaving. Summer soda, blissful. Van Han bit barbecue, sipped soda, mood lifted.
Chu Lam drank a jar of beer, sober, bold, spoke freely, didn't expect Van Han's sixth sense so sharp, told kids not to swim, still happened. Last time tried to stop Chu Du, too late, happened anyway.
Van Han, you knew everything?
Chu Du first heard Van Han had wanted to stop him.
He recalled, really?
Yes, Van Han said, you ran too fast, I hadn't finished talking.
Chu Du embarrassed, guess didn't hear me.
I also want sixth sense.
Chu Lam rested chin, I thought won lottery. Chu Du, you have money, still thought lottery? Chu Lam, not mine, parents. I want own money, not ask parents.
Van Han helpless, sixth sense or lottery, I didn't win either.
Didn't win a, Chu Lam disappointed. Outside, dogs barked crazily.
Chu Lam looked, saw small
books.
Golden dog panicked, wanted to escape.
I thought to raise a dog, but this one too fierce. Van Han signaled Chu Du, drunk? Chu Du hesitated, maybe? Van Han blinked, now what? Chu Du. Let her speak. Just talking more, no big deal.
Chu Lam, after moving, told another incident, recently felt life like an accident.
Child in car couldn't breathe, died, dehydrated, shock, child drowned and abandoned. Saw crazy dog barking, first reaction moved before animal, panicked. Is this world unsuitable, am I crazy? Chu Lam opened beer, drank a gulp, frustrated.
On the fourth dungeon run, Van Han was taken in by Lam Yuyan, no need to pretend to be a ghost, she drifted in at ease, yet as the run day neared she felt something off, soloing a dungeon came once a month, while teaming meant once every more than 20 days, so counted out a year might barely net more than 2 runs. She had planned to ask True Na to confirm but the senior wasn't on campus. Halfway she bumped into Duong Tiham who, in casual talk, affirmed it and said the teacher had stressed it. Van Han sighed, everyone seemed to be playing a new kind of hunting game. For a moment she felt the whole world prodding her to do more, and if there was no chance she must force one. Duong Tiham, in a low voice, quoted a teacher, in a bizarre world there is only gain and loss, never a perfect both. Van Han asked if the Horror Academy differed from ordinary universities and wasn't it a 4-year system. Tiham nodded. If you're still alive after 1 year you graduate with honor. And decide whether to stay, and if you stay you assist teaching with seniors. As they spoke, Lam Yuyan happened by, and halfway through his body flashed white. Right after, Van Han and Duong Tiham lit up white as well, and then the 3 were pulled into a dungeon, this dungeon, Long Phuong Kindergarten. Because of special conditions, live streaming is disabled. Difficulty, C. Present headcount, 8 of 8. Quest 1. Attend the school celebration. During the celebration a misfortune once struck Long Phuong Kindergarten, since then it loops those 3 days forever. Requirement, players must fully participate in the celebration. Quest 2. Investigate, find out exactly what happened across those 3 days and resolve the regret. Extremely poor performance will be massacred. Van Han's vision swam. When she came to, she was on a tiny stool before a little desk with paper and brush, a big blank waiting to be filled. She stared at her left hand for about 5 seconds, holding her breath. Danger. She almost thought she had to start preschool again. Lucky it was only a bizarre dungeon. Her heart pounded but she felt secretly relieved. The ghost teacher, trying to act kindly, told the kids to write their names in the upper right corner, and with a smile his face turned dreadful. Van Han took the brush and wrote Van Han. She looked around. 8 child forms of players sat in a straight row, Lam Yuyan and Duong Tiham to her left and right but fairly far away. The ghost teacher told them to hand in the sheets. One player clutched his paper, refused to give it. The teacher intoned coldly that he was not being good. The man shuddered and let go. The teacher hissed that good children who listen are likable, gathered the papers, then declaimed, Long Fuang does. Elite education, we strive to raise every child into outstanding talent. There are no children who cannot be taught, only teachers who cannot teach. In the back row the parents sat in a line, applauding madly. Van Han, I'll just quietly watch you perform. The clapping ran hot and long before stopping. The teacher went on. Meanwhile Van Han slipped in a task. Proceed with the 14th mark? She said yes. Mark succeeded. Congrats, you obtained 3 bags of milk candy, 4 boxes of clear heart tea, 3 bags of dried beef, 4 packs of chicken drumsticks. Congrats, you obtained 40 cubic meters of personal space auto merges, current total 120 cubic meters. Congrats, you obtained S-rank talent Diamond Chant. Diamond Chant, S-rank, cannot be upgraded, up to 4 hours of chanting per day. Long chanting can ferry resentful spirits and let the dead sleep forever. Chicken drumsticks, contains 1 fragrant drumstick. After eating, you will feel a certain satiety lasting 4 to 6 hours. Just then the teacher finally tired of droning and announced the next segment. Children, hold your mom or dad's hand. We're changing classrooms. One kid rushed behind to call for his mom, but his dad slapped him hard and said, Your mom isn't here. I am. The child player, clutching his face, was stunned. He'd thought each parent matched the child behind them, so he tried to be proactive and sweet to earn points. Not knowing parents sat at random and he stepped on a mine. Van Han sat still in a daze. A middle-aged man came to her, held out his hand. Han, take dad's hand, don't get lost. She grabbed the sleeve like a timid child. The man who'd been slapped earlier felt bitter, should have stayed put. Soon all kids and parents were hand in hand. This way please. Led by the ghost teacher, they entered the next room. Again kids in a line, parents in a line, but now black brush and a test paper lay on the desks. Looking closely, it was a primary school math Olympiad. The teacher proudly proclaimed their education effective and ordered a 30-minute in-class test so parents could audit the results. Van Han sighed, never heard of a kindergarten founding day that made kids take exams to show off excellence. It felt like turning children into merchandise. She was merely incredulous, but the little girl beside her was already sweating. She'd finished high school years ago and returned the knowledge to teachers, and she'd never been good at math. Now she felt like standing on fire and sitting on coals, more flustered than true preschoolers. The ghost teacher didn't care. Announced the start, then flipped an hourglass. Grains fell, time slid. All knew when the sand ran out the test ended, so they bent over their papers in a rush. First problem, no idea. Skip to another, still no idea. Third problem looked doable, yet after 10 minutes no result. By the fourth, half the time was gone and not a single answer written, not even a direction for scratchwork. Everyone, speechless. It felt like the hardest trial of their lives, with zero confidence to pass. After a struggle, the sand was spent. The teacher declared time and ordered pens down. No one dared defy. All stopped writing. Some had prepped their mindset and smiled with confidence. Others turned pale as if foreseeing misfortune. The teacher collected and graded before all. The room was silent save for the rasp of correction marks. After an unknown span he finished, and the scores came out. He announced 3 perfect score kids. Gungo, Ham, Duong Tiham, and Han. Van Han tied for first. Fourth was Lam Yuyan. Fifth Duong. Sixth Nen. Seventh Dao. Eighth Muanai. As soon as he read the rank, a parent shot up, rushed to Anan, slapped twice, then yanked her by the scalp and roared that when he'd studied he was always first and how could she score so poorly and disappoint him. Anan was the girl beside Van Han. Now her scalp felt about to tear. She grimaced yet dared not resist. Nor was it only one parent. Muanai's father strode over and laid into him with blows. Hadn't I told you never to be dead last again? Why are your grades still this bad? Can't you apply yourself? The scene was brutal. A player, unable to watch, reached to stop it, but the parent ghost sensed it, glared, and warned outsiders not to meddle in how he educated his child. The nominal mother also said, Dao, don't mind other people's business. Last place means bad genes, fit to be eliminated. She spoke both as encouragement and threat. You just ranked second from bottom. You'd better try. The girl named Dao trembled and withdrew her hand. At the key moment the ghost teacher said children are young and failing once can happen. Players were stunned that the dungeon ghost seemed to defend them, but in the next breath he turned to Anan and advised that next time she must apply herself and not score so poorly again, as if she'd chosen to fail. Then to Muanai he said keep it up. He believed in him, And even if he improved a little to be second from last, it was still better than last. The blows stopped. Wanai seemed to understand and swore never to be bottom again. The second from last this round, Dao Dao tensed and vaguely grasped the hidden rule. The teacher ended the math check and moved them along, feet heavy, hearts unwilling. They still obeyed. In the new room, the teacher, with a fake smile, declared that true excellence was well-rounded and they would hold a talent show. Any skill could be displayed. The players remembered their old fear of forced recitals. First up was Han Han, and applause thundered. Dragged onto the stage under parents' expectant gazes, she calmly said she was best at candy making and would demonstrate sugar work. In her past life she'd loved sketching cute candy designs, so she studied the process and made good product. Seeing the classroom stocked with materials, she didn't stand on ceremony. She washed sugar beets, cut them, soaked for syrup, skimmed impurities, boiled until most water evaporated to a thick syrup. In another tray she poured a little water and oil, then spread the cooked syrup on the table. After cooling a while she pulled it back and forth on a wooden post. This pulling was a major task consuming much strength. Normally a child's body could not manage, but thanks to an earlier washing sinew, cutting marrow reward, her physique had jumped, and with errank talent boundless strength she worked smoothly. You could diet, but she didn't intend to be flashy this time. Once pulled, she drew it long, cut into segments, subdivided to small equal blocks, and once cooled the candies were done. She said she often made candy at home and even thought to bring some to share. She reached into her pocket as if taking candy, actually taking it from personal space, and said today's was rushed and ordinary. The home batch tasted better. Please try. The teacher distributed fresh candy and milk candy to parents. At first they were dismissive, thinking cookery unimportant, but after tasting their faces changed and they praised from the heart that this child would surely have a great future. With such fervor, almost rousing a buying frenzy, the teacher gave Han Han a perfect score. She bowed and stepped down, and next came Ham Ham. Duong T-Ham said she would play piano. As a child she'd thought piano was cool and begged to learn, the family well off so they could afford it, and that particular 3-minute burst of passion had lasted long enough for her to master a piece and play it through without mistake, which she now did and earned a perfect score. Third was Ngungo, a handsome boy with presence who dipped a brush and performed calligraphy, drawing praise from a knowledgeable parent for heroic strokes, earning another perfect. At the fourth, the teacher paused before calling an, like taking out a low-end item because it had to be displayed, and had done poorly on math and been beaten, and from the parent ghost's words she seemed to need first place to avoid punishment. With 3 perfect grades already, she would have to be perfect, so she changed into dance wear. To perform, everyone watched a little beansprout fling herself with all she had, a sight that hurt to see. To chase a perfect, she attempted several high-difficulty moves. On landing she staggered and revealed a flaw. The piece ended, the teacher said, 98, and Anne's face turned white as if sentenced. Her father stormed up, grabbed her by the scalp, and demanded why she was always less than others, and then snapped, drew a little ghostchi blade, and slashed. A red line opened on his arm. Yet he not only refused to release her but grew more enraged, demanding who had given her the courage and taught her that. The system chimed. Player attacked the nominal father. Part of ghostchi sealed. Use is forbidden in this dungeon. And Anne's strength dropped by a third. Worse, the teacher joined in to persuade her that if she did not do well she should tell her dad, "Dad, I was wrong, and Dad, I promise I will do better next time," and asked how she could raise a hand to him, because kindergarten did not teach that. After a beating in with the system not recognizing her resistance, Anne could only humbly say, "Dad, I was wrong." Her father stopped, still scowling, warning that she had failed to take first twice and must never let it happen again, and Anne's fist clenched. Fearful of ghosts seeing, she hung her head in feigned timidity, while her father smiled, satisfied. The music ended and the show went on. The fifth was Lam Nguyen, who demonstrated a martial routine, fists with wind and intimidating posture, scoring 97. Sixth was Duong, who announced he would recite pi, and without waiting began, 3.14159265386. Parents applauded and marveled. A flicker crossed the teacher's eyes, but he still gave a perfect. Duong bowed and left calmly, thinking he knew no one else would know it, and even if he made it up they couldn't tell. Indeed, he didn't know pi and had no other talent, and if he did nothing he would be last, so he gambled that none could check him, and he won. Seventh was Dao, who sketched a chubby lucky doll in pencil. Because her strokes were childish she received the only 85 in the room. When Wanai came last he pointed at Dao and said he was good at Go and wanted to play her. Dao froze, she couldn't play, not even the rules, and waved frantically while admitting it. The teacher grew displeased and said it had been taught, and how could she say she didn't know? Surely she hadn't studied. Dao's mother was
also unhappy and told her to play well and not shame her. Shoved to the tip of the wave, she could only grit through random moves, while Moanai had already planned that as long as he beat her he wouldn't be last. After the game Dao Dao indeed lost, the teacher declared Moanai very good with 92. Dao Dao trembled and glanced at her mother. The mother didn't strike on the spot but smiled darkly that they would settle it at home. Dao Dao's spine went cold, with 2 events done and new near. The teacher arranged for parents and kids to eat together. Dad of Han Han demurred, but the teacher boasted they had a dedicated chef and urged them to stay for a simple meal and see the chef's skill. Out of courtesy Dad agreed. The teacher went to arrange lunch. Parents clustered in groups to trade parenting tips, kids huddled to exchange intel. Duong Tiham hurried to Van Han, took her hand like making friends but whispered any findings, muddled herself, she wanted to copy from someone she knew. Van Han lowered her voice. Every parent has taboo zones to avoid. Moanai's father and Dao Dao's mother hate their kids being last, and Anne's father despises anything but first. The teacher's stance shifts, sometimes siding with parents to help discipline, sometimes siding with the kids to cover mistakes. She had noticed Duong's pie stunt early but waited since the situation was unclear. Parents didn't notice. The teacher did and said nothing, books. Like a cheap product. Pretending to be luxurious, with the seller happily covering it up when a buyer beams, Tiham pondered and asked if intentionally tanking to take last would spare an Moanai, or Dao Dao. Van Han said it sounded nice but was hard to execute. Tiham didn't get it. If no one competes with an and she gets first, and if someone does worse than Moanai and Dao Dao they won't be last, the test is hard so just do worse. Van Han shook her head. Moanai and Dao Dao are rivals stepping on each other so they won't be bottom, and by that logic someone should also compete for first with an the one who avoids a beating there is the one who often takes first. Tiham started. Across 2 rounds only you, I, and Gungo took first. Van Han analyzed, if you suppress your score to keep an safe, someone else will be the unlucky one, so the best is both of you take perfects and tie for first. As for Moanai and Dao Dao, in theory letting someone else take last would save them both, but the substitute must risk the same danger, and no parent wants their child to be bottom. Who knows what will happen? If you want to help them that's understandable, only think through the consequences first and be sure you can bear them. Tiham went silent. She had thought help was a casual pull and everyone would be fine, but in truth the other might be safe while she might not. Kindness has risk, especially in a bizarre world where a misstep means taking others' blame and death. After thinking it through she backed off. Just then the teacher pushed in a food cart. The kids returned to their seats to await lunch. Van Han glanced and found the colors appealing. Braised spare ribs, stir-fried greens, a steamed corn bun with meat filling, and old duck barley gourd soup, rice served generously. As she was about to eat, her nominal father carried the ribs and buns past, then shaved off half her rice and handed her the remainder with a kindly smile. There you go, eat, Van Han. Huh, is this a bright daylight scheme to starve me under the sun? According to this, the government will first organize rescue personnel. They will also temporarily settle those who cannot be accommodated, providing food and water. Van Han comforted, the most important thing is that everyone is safe. Besides, take it slowly. In short, there will be a way. Chu Du spoke again. Communication devices were destroyed, many buildings collapsed, so assuming people are unharmed, after the aftershocks and restoring the area affected by the earthquake, how many years will it take? Chu Lam, a local born and raised here, with deep feelings for the city, said resolutely, whether 3 years or 5 years, in the end it can be restored to its original state. Chu Du, being an outsider, analyzed the situation more rationally. Within 3 or 4 years, the economy will definitely be affected. Locals whose homes are intact, that's fine, just consider living expenses. But locals whose homes collapsed, office buildings collapsed, immediately losing both residents and work, how are they supposed to get through the next 3-5 years? Chu Lam was speechless. Moreover, Chu Du looked at the chaos, asking deeply, after the earthquake, would you still dare to stay here? If another earthquake happens in a few years, what then? Chu Lam, despite her attachment, she still felt slightly scared staying in the city. We'll talk later. Chu Lam sighed, I'll discuss with my parents when we get home. An hour passed. Finally someone led them to a temporary shelter. It was a large hall, with the strong aroma of instant noodles in the air, a few people sitting sparsely in a corner. Staff were distributing bottled water and instant noodles. Some survivors were eating ravenously, showing extreme hunger. Tonight you can stay here. The person guiding them showed a hint of apology. Special situation,
the authorities temporarily accept this.
Van Han collected bottled water and biscuits, then sat near the wall. Chu Lam hurried to follow. Chudu came over. Why choose this spot? Van Han replied, I like leaning against the wall to sleep.
Chudu said nothing further. Van Han looked at Chu Lam, tired, rest for a moment. Tonight will be rough, even a short nap counts.
Chu Lam nodded like a chick pecking grain.
Perhaps it was the alcohol, or perhaps the intense terror experienced, knowing she was safe brought a sense of relief. She closed her eyes and soon fell asleep. At the same time, Van Han closed her eyes, intending to rest, but an intensely hot gaze made her feel uneasy.
She had to open her eyes. What is it?
The gaze was Chudu's, now calm, saying directly, I find this truly miraculous.
What is miraculous? Van Han asked.
When I first saw you, I thought you were a recent graduate, reserved, expecting others to look after newcomers. But after the disaster, everything changed. Chudu's mood was complicated. Along the way, it was you who took care of us.
Was that not good? Van Han asked again. Good. As long as we survived, anything is fine.
Chudu self-mocked. I originally thought I would be the protector, not expecting to be protected. The feeling is a bit strange.
Van Han decisively said, then you better get used to it quickly. Chudu laughed. You're not hiding anything at all now?
Van Han thought about normal routines, but with disasters happening more frequently, low-key behavior was no longer feasible.
So in the end she decided, manage him. However relaxed, it had to be done. After a whole day, aren't you tired? How do you still have this mindset?
Van Han was curious. If you're not tired, then take the night watch, and look after the two girls. Saying this, she closed her eyes to rest, refusing to argue. Chudu smiled bitterly, taking the night watch seriously.
That night was not peaceful. Survivors kept arriving at the hall. Men, women, old, young, voices and footsteps never ceased. Midnight. Chudu needed to go to the restroom.
Going ahead, he planned to wake Van Han to keep her alert. But in the crowded hall, no one dared guarantee safety. A bad person could be anywhere. Just as he reached out, without touching anyone, Van Han suddenly opened her eyes, looking sharply at him.
Chudu, all right, he was embarrassed.
He withdrew his hand. I'll go outside for a bit.
Go ahead. Van Han approved.
Beside her, Chu Lam leaned against Van Han, sleeping like a little pig, showing no sign of waking. Chudu felt that if Van Han had ill intentions, Chu Lam might be in danger without realizing it. The difference between people could be huge.
Books.
Outside the door, he felt a little relieved.
Chudu shook his head, walking out.
The night passed without incident. The next day, with daylight, Chu Lam woke after a full sleep. Last night's scenes flashed in her mind, leaving her body stiff.
Mumbling, slow reactions, dragging her feet, wondering why she cried so confusingly. Awake?
Chudu, with a serious face eating, saw Chu Lam wake and greeted her, you slept well.
People came and went, talking, but we didn't wake you. Chu Lam, that's because I drank.
She explained seriously, but Chudu paid no attention, bowing his head to eat.
Where's Van Han? After last night, Chu Lam developed a strange dependency on Van Han.
Specifically, if Van Han wasn't in her line of sight, she felt uneasy.
Here. Van Han, finishing her portion, appeared behind Chu Lam. Chu Lam relaxed. Time for instant noodles.
Yes. Van Han told her, the hall is crowded, you still haven't woken, so Chudu and I took turns serving noodles, keeping an eye on you.
Chu Lam, drinking ruined everything. I'll never drink again.
Chudu looked up briefly. Don't talk, go get instant noodles.
You don't want mushroom chicken? Chu Lam?
She turned and ran to line up. Although the temporary shelter conditions were poor, given the situation, having a sip of warm water and a bite of hot food was not bad.
Moreover, the staff had received information and would report to authorities first. This 8.6 magnitude earthquake is historically rare.
Luckily, the government evacuated people in time, avoiding massive casualties. Half the rooms collapsed, public facilities were severely damaged, with huge losses hard to estimate. The earthquake caused gas pipelines to rupture, explosions led to fires.
Statistics: 24 dead, 7 injured.
Due to extreme heat, elderly and children suffered from heatstroke while escaping. 31 people have died so far.
Latest news: the fire is out. Government cleared roads, ambulances moved the injured for treatment.
Some citizens stayed behind to collect belongings, identity cards, property, bank cards, valuables, unable to evacuate in time. Aftershocks buried them in debris.
The government sent rescue teams, rescuing 56 people so far. Over time, data kept updating.
Van Han received notifications. Players with super high senses alerted first, succeeded in clearing subinstance 117912 earthquake disaster. Indirectly saved 131,973 humans, rated SSS, rewarded attribute points, strength +1, agility +1, stamina +1, spirit +1. Players with super high senses alerted first, succeeded in clearing subinstance 117915 gas pipeline explosion. Rescued 6 humans, rated B, rewarded attribute points, strength +0.1, agility +0.1, stamina +0.2. Seeing the text interface, Van Han recalled the city population was 880,000, meaning besides those unaffected, 130,000 were rescued thanks to her. After the disaster, countless materials were sent to affected areas, many volunteers contributed. When conditions improved slightly, Chu Lam returned home, discovering her ancestral home had collapsed. Fortunately, her parents were safe. Chu Du looked at the ruins with frustration. I just cleaned this place, everything was in the rooms. Van Han found an excuse to briefly go home. Unfortunately, the mansion could not escape disaster, also collapsed. Later they awaited news. After over a month of arduous rescue, some buried under debris were successfully rescued. The army delivered bricks and timber to help displaced citizens build simple winter shelters. At this time, the shop owner finally found Van Han and the others. After a long time apart, his face full of grief, I bought property in the worst affected area. After the earthquake, rooms collapsed, cars damaged. The government promised reconstruction aid, but it's unclear how many years. For now, only limited support. The branch ahead was heavily damaged, interior equipment destroyed. I thought long and hard and decided not to reopen the shop. You all should find your own way. Shop owner, Chu Lam didn't know what to say. Learning her ancestral home collapsed, she felt distressed, yet compared to the shop owner, it seemed trivial. After all, it was her own home, built with limited funds. Rental income over the years had offset construction expenses. Her father said the rental income had been saved in the bank. Although her home suffered from the earthquake, losses were limited. The city could recover later. She decided to move to another city. Starting over was not a problem. The shop owner was different. Coming from rural work, he had spent years saving, building a career, achieving property, cars, family. Suddenly disaster wiped out over a decade of effort overnight. Such disparity is hard for ordinary people to accept. The shop owner spoke no more, handed them the salaries, gave extra for a month, waved, and left. His figure was desolate, words could not describe the emptiness. Chu Lam felt uneasy, thinking of giving money back. Chu Du said, "Take it." If the shop owner wasn't sincere, he wouldn't run here personally. It's because he was too kind, that's why I feel worse. Chu Lam complained, why should peaceful life be destroyed like this? Earthquakes are natural disasters, they don't follow logic. Chu Du looked at Chu Lam, sensing her faint dizziness. He then turned to Van Han, any plans for the future? Van Han answered, move to another city. For her, this disaster was the last major event, better to be a bit away. Chu Lam wanted to stay, but didn't know how to voice it. Alright, I also plan to try another city, Chu Du said. This area's economy won't recover for at least 3 years, Once it normalizes, if possible, I'll return.
So you all must leave? Chu Lam felt a loss. Van Han said, no party lasts forever. Well, should we exchange phone numbers? Chu Lam conceded. No. Van Han said goodbye to them, then left gracefully. Chu Lam stared blankly, heart heavy.
After changing her residence and restoring the internet to normal, Van Han began updating her brief resume again. Reality proved that as long as her figure was low profile enough and she didn't pick a specific task, she could always find work.
Within a few days, Van Han received a notice for an interview.
This time, the person in charge was the secretary of the design company, with the direct interviewer being an assistant.
Upon seeing her, the young female secretary asked, "How is your physical condition?" Van Han's first thought, if her body was healthy, could she handle a 996 schedule?
Thinking that, she carefully replied, "It's manageable, basically no illness throughout the year."
The young secretary asked again, "How about strength? Can you run fast?" Why would an assistant need great strength and speed?
Van Han couldn't explain, but she nodded, naturally strong, familiar with exercise. Hearing that, the young secretary's eyes lit up, leading Van Han to a luggage trunk and encouraged, "Try lifting it, can you manage?" Van Han lifted the trunk with one hand and then walked around the room with it. Her face did not flush, her breath stayed steady, and her heartbeat did not accelerate.
The young secretary was extremely satisfied, continuously praising her. One final question, can you go on business trips?
After speaking, she added, "Of course, the company will provide ample allowances, but during trips, everything must follow arrangements."
Yes. Van Han agreed. Things were settled that way. First, she reviewed the brief resume, then looked through company documents.
This is a design company, mainly focused on design around products, also collaborating with factories. Drafts would go to factories for mass production and then be delivered to clients.
After taking the position, Van Han waited for her supervisor to assign tasks.
Unexpectedly, the young secretary said, "Today finish early, go home to pack.
Tomorrow morning the company will gather, we'll go on a business trip with the boss." Van Han was puzzled, first day finish early, next day immediately go on a trip?
The young secretary smiled knowingly, "Yes, because the itinerary is important." Van Han thought, "You need not do this, it will make me feel like changing tasks immediately," but she held back. The next day, Van Han brought her luggage and arrived on time. To make a good impression on new colleagues, she arrived a few minutes early. She found the secretary, a wealthy young master, 2 black-clad bodyguards, and a young colleague waiting. Van Han was stunned, feeling she had come to the wrong place.
The wealthy young master checked his watch, displeased, "Why so late?"
The secretary reconciled, "New employee just arrived, doesn't understand, will be fine later."
The young master snorted, "Time is short, let's go." He led the way into the car.
Van Han saw the young colleague sit close to the wealthy young master. 2 bodyguards, one driving, one sitting beside the master.
Van Han quickly pulled the secretary, "Aren't we going with the boss?"
The secretary corrected, "We follow the boss, but it's not just the 2 of us.
Black clothes are bodyguards, tall one is Zhao, taller is Chiu.
The young one is Lu Lui, our design colleague, with a good relationship with the boss, just call him Lu."
"Ah," Van Han acknowledged.
The car drove to the airport. Van Han got out, paused at the plane. The secretary got the ticket, returned swiftly, departure in 25 minutes.
Boss Lam Kim found his seat, about to take out his phone to pass the time.
Van Han suddenly said, "Change the ticket to another flight."
The secretary was stunned. Lam Kim didn't understand, looked at the new employee, "Why?"
Van Han said, "The plane's ticket gives me a bad feeling."
Lam Kim was speechless, looked at the secretary, "Is this your new hire? Was it explained during the interview?"
"Yes."
The secretary smiled, with clenched teeth, "Why this way? On a trip. Everything should follow arrangements."
"Anyway, I won't sit on that flight, and advise you not to either."
Van Han said. Lam Kem chuckled, then tell the truth, what's wrong with that plane? What bad thing will happen if we sit? Van Han looked serious, I don't know. She only felt that if she got on, danger level C. Moreover, from the secretary's ticket, others were shrouded in dense black ash. The plane took off, who knew what might happen, this kind of danger she absolutely would not risk. Afraid of planes? Lam Kem asked. Van Han shook her head, no, not afraid, but telling others not to sit, wait and see? Lam Kem speechless, does this make sense? A gentleman does not flirt with danger. Van Han advised. Then you stay. Lam Kem coldly said, you're expelled from now on. Saying so, he left. Van Han pulled her luggage and found a seat. Checked ticket, boarded, sat in upper cabin. Lam Kem still angry, new recruit? Almost thought she was the boss, controlling the company. Secretary quickly apologized, my mistake, won't happen again. Lam Kem still unsettled, previously full of anticipation, now closed eyes against the seat, thought of nothing. On the ground, control tower gave takeoff clearance. While climbing, the crew discovered thunderstorms and heavy rain ahead. Ground reported possible storm on air route. To avoid turbulence, the captain changed course, gaining 10,000 meters altitude. Anticipating bumps, seatbelt signs on, attendants reminded passengers to fasten belts. 16 minutes in, Lam Kem, resting, heard rustling sounds. He opened eyes, saw passengers standing, asked attendants. Before an answer, a loud bang, front cargo exploded, plane's fuselage breached, huge hole appeared. Lam Kem was shocked. Strong pressure pulled two nearby sections from seats out the window. 7 or 8 passengers vanished instantly. Lam Kem's heart raced as if near death. A flight attendant nearly got pulled out, Lu Lui held her tightly. Plane's outer force was strong, one person
NK
could not
books.
resist. Luckily, black-clad bodyguard also extended a hand, assisted. Plane turned 180 degrees, returning to airport, but distance flown meant more time. Turbulent air, interior objects flew around, hitting passengers. Secretary got hit, regretted not listening to Van Han. Ample salary, can compare to life? Lam Kem also regretted not listening, almost died on this flight. Pride prevented speaking. Suddenly Lam Kem had difficulty breathing, face red, desperate, felt helpless. Bodyguard Zhao Pale said to boss, oxygen system probably damaged. Lam Kem saw darkness before him, short of oxygen, panic on bad news. Oxygen system failed, cannot supply air, thousands of meters high, no escape, human difficulty. Luckily after a while, plane descended, breathing eased. Lam Kem understood new employees' advice, felt miraculous, as if fate intervened. Black-clad bodyguard Zhao said, now we can only trust the pilot. Lam Kem first felt life controlled by others. High up, could do nothing, could only wait. Flight attendants reminded passengers to wear life vests. Nearby people prayed, depending on their religion, prayed to different deities. Lam Kem thought, if prayers work, gods would come to save. After a long 10 minutes, plane returned, preparing to land. Ground cleared runway, fire trucks ready. Plane landed successfully, did not veer off. 300 passengers and over 10 staff survived, many injured. A minute later, everyone evacuated. Harrowing journey ended, back on ground, Lam Kem felt unprecedented resolve. Planned to sit in cafe, drink something, just lifted head, saw Van Han. Lam Kem startled, felt like on a thrilling amusement ride. Some predicted it too intense, refused, waited nearby. After ride, legs weak, eyes unfocused. Nearby waiting, leisurely, could snack. Lam Kem approached, asked, did you know something would happen? Van Han tilted head, no. Lam Kem didn't believe, then why insist on refusing? This flight? Bad feeling. Van Han explained, sixth sense not always right, but life is only one, can't gamble. Lam Kem recalled ignoring advice, had to take this flight, felt guilty,
asked, if you knew, why not inform airline?
Van Han frightened looked back, I didn't know, couldn't predict if anything would happen, why tell them? She saw colleagues enveloped in dense gray fog, not a countdown to death. Lam Cam choked.
Indeed, could not tell airline plane felt wrong, don't sit. Airline would not reason with her, could warn Dot.
If everyone is here, let's go grab a bite. Lam Cam acted as if nothing had happened yet.
Van Han carried her luggage trunk, looking innocent, I just got fired.
Triple the salary. Hire again. Lam Cam did not hesitate. Van Han immediately agreed.
Only, the previous VIP plane had been the secretary young lady, wealthy young master, 2 black-clad bodyguards, and 5 young colleagues in total, but now there were only 4 people standing here.
How come one is missing? Van Han asked irritably.
The secretary young lady, much friendlier than before, replied proactively, Cao Xie was injured, unconscious, so he was taken by ambulance to the hospital for treatment.
A work accident.
Van Han sighed. Bodyguards were not very good at this, wherever the boss went, they followed. No matter high or low, as long as the boss felt interested, they would chase tirelessly.
Van Han's peripheral vision caught a glimpse of the small wound on the mouth and asked, You're hurt? Aren't you going to the hospital to get it bandaged?
The secretary young lady just smiled embarrassedly and looked at the boss without speaking. She wanted to go to the hospital, though the wound was minor, she had no way to act. But since the boss was unharmed, she assumed everyone else was fine too, and did not mention going to the hospital. Secretly, she cursed herself, thinking that in the boss's eyes, only someone like Cao Xie, lying there dazed with closed eyes, needed an ambulance to make a fuss about injuries.
In fact, Lam Cam didn't pay attention at all.
At this moment, Van Han reminded him, and he realized the secretary young lady went ahead to get treated and would join them afterward.
She glanced at Van Han appreciatively and quickly left.
The remaining 4 went to a coffee shop to sit. It must be said, the Union coffee shop was excellent, not only selling coffee, but also cakes, and even boxed meals. Van Han ordered drinks and a luxurious boxed meal, sitting down elegantly to eat, after all, the boss was paying. Lam Cam, Zhao Xie, and Lulu sat down silently. Zhao Xie was burly, with a rugged look, obviously a man of few words and many deeds.
Lulu's expression was pensive, unreadable.
Lam Cam, as the boss, sipped his coffee, feeling slightly calmer. Remembering something, his expression changed, and he poured several more cups, drinking half in an instant.
Van Han suspected he was drinking coffee like alcohol. The plane had a problem and cannot take off on time, this is very important, can the journey be missed? Van Han asked, estimating that the stakes were hundreds of millions, enough to ignore her advice, obstinately wanting the VIP plane? Even following the next flight would not work. Hearing this, Lam Cam's expression changed. He raised his hand, saw the scheduled time, and shouted, not good. The performance will be missed. Lam Cam stood up, imagining the outside direction, saw the bodyguards. Lulu looked pale, 2 workers were missing, he sighed, and sat back again. Van Han blinked. She heard correctly, the boss just said performance?
Lam Cam looked at Van Han, realizing he had slipped, feeling a bit embarrassed. He didn't try to explain, with the secretary gone, the remaining bodyguards and Lulu would not speak up. Helplessly, he said himself, Superstar Kai Lam's performance, front row, everyone has a ticket.
Van Han, so it really was a fan journey. Just that. We don't get to attend, so the crew goes fan traveling? Van Han wondered.
Lam Cam looked serious. What better option do we have? Kai Lam's performance happens once every few years. Previously, countries fought each other, no one could go. Now, after unifying the losing countries, there is only one union on the entire planet, everyone is one family, finally able to attend the live scene. Kai Lam is over 50 this year, how many more tour performances can he do?
Missing one while listening. Lam Cam became more excited, finally giving up his managerial demeanor. Want to attend the performance, one person is fine, why must all workers go together? Van Han was puzzled. Lam Kem said solemnly, "This is worker welfare." Van Han raised a hand, "Can it be skipped?"
This type of welfare, she would really want. Lam Kem initially wanted to scold her, but thinking of the earlier plane incident, he withered, "No, must accompany the boss on the trip, go crazy for affection, worry for the idol wildly."
Van Han understood clearly.
This was a fan company trip, main business fan, secondary design, the boss himself led the fan trip.
Slowly, Van Han looked at the boss, expression slightly, "Our company designs around ourselves, not around the celebrity?"
Of course. Lam Kem proudly lifted his chin, "Our company designs around ourselves, that's reputation."
Every time a batch is produced, servers freeze because too many people rush to buy. The boss seems not short of money, why not buy a helicopter? Van Han was curious, taking a helicopter wouldn't be more convenient?
Lam Kem's tone surged.
Black-clad bodyguard Zhao Xie looked, because it stopped.
Few words, but a lot of news.
Lam Kem was angry, a real man cannot bend his back for money. Zhao Xie said sadly, "If we don't bend, who will come to work?" Lam Kem even more furious, "Who are you siding with?"
Zhao Xie looked at the sky, "Salary is set at home.
Whoever pays me, I serve them."
Lam Kem almost forgot, the bodyguard followed him for safety.
Lam Kem picked up coffee, froze, and changed the topic, "Right, what's your name? How long since graduation?" Van Han, "Graduated over a year." Van Han answered. "Good eyes, can tell our company your brief resume." Lam Kem didn't know if he was praising Van Han or himself.
Van Han felt 100 million pangs of guilt. Before the boss, over a decade of effort could be wiped out in one night, leaving her indebted. The highest boss temporarily had nothing to do, but the client pool had only one cornerstone left. The supreme boss, imprisoned machinery, even long-term could not maintain. The previous supreme boss, turned into a candy toy, forever alive in workers' memories.
If told to the current boss, would he still laugh? Lam Kem's sixth sense was clearly useless. He not only laughed but laughed brilliantly.
"Missing this round doesn't matter, since it's a tour performance, we can attend the next show."
Near 3 o'clock, the secretary young lady returned quickly, wound bandaged. "Cao Xie is unlucky, injury not good, doctor says requires hospital observation." Lam Kem nodded, "Everyone ready, let's go." Secretary young lady slightly startled, "Where to?" "See the performance."
Lam Kem hadn't given up, "I checked just now, the show starts at 7, 1 hour after start cannot enter. We must hurry, at most arrive 20 to 30 minutes late."
"Still by plane?"
At the same time, secretary young lady stood still, seemingly not thinking about buying a plane ticket.
Lam Kem could not hear plane, "No, take the train."
Instantly, secretary young lady regained her competent posture, nodded, "Okay, I'll buy tickets online."
Train waiting room. Lam Kem noticed others' eyes inadvertently glancing at Van Han. Too outrageous. Lam Kem extremely dissatisfied, who is the boss? Why must they watch the new worker's expression? Secretly cursed, then saw secretary young lady laughing and replying to Van Han, "How do you feel? Comfortable?"
Lam Kem, eyes not looking, ears alert. Upon realizing what he did, he couldn't help spitting, yet others were watching her expression too.
No discomfort.
Van Han knew their concern, energy full, spirit abundant, feeling really good.
Good then. Secretary finally reassured.
Lam Kem said nothing, took out his phone to pass time. Lulu evaluated Van Han silently, eyes glowing oddly.
Van Han enjoyed snacks, satisfied.
Soon, the train arrived.
5 boarded in order. Secretary took 3rd class. Car.
Lam Kem thought to continue playing on phone, but secretary took out a deck of cards, suggested the magnates play.
Zhao Xie declined first. Lulu said he didn't know how to play. The remaining 3 began playing landlord.
Secretary would collect points actively, but Van Han, unskilled, lost her eyes red. Another round, Van Han managed, Lamcam had not played a card, lost.
Don't play, not fun. Lamcam refused such childish game. Landlord required skill to play well, otherwise boring. Lucia, play? Secretary asked Lulu, if not fun, fine, just to pass time.
Lulu wanted to speak. Van Han looked away, stood up, not playing.
Saying so, walked to another car. What's wrong with her? Lamcam asked.
Secretary shook her head. Suddenly stands, suddenly says not playing, suddenly leaves, everything unexpected.
Lulu guessed, maybe she sensed something?
4 people looked at each other, terrified.
Especially Lamcam, just playing on phone, system pushed video, content, 5 hours ago, plain incident.
Only after observing others analyzing did Lamcam realize how dangerous it was. Incident caused by plane engine malfunction, cabin door unexpectedly opened.
Cargo bay electronic lock design flaw, situation worsened.
Occupants of affected seats were swept out, some into fan blades, some falling freely, for minutes later dead.
Books. Oxygen system damaged, passengers nearly suffocated. Investigation showed wings damaged. If the captain hadn't made quick decisions, emergency bailout Madeira would face greater risk, possible explosion. If plane not flown by experienced captain, result would be worse, potentially hitting structures, casualties likely. Lamcam deeply felt surviving was fate. Brief half-hour journey, many fatal possibilities. Any mishandled detail, someone gone. Airline had noticed design issue earlier, solvable.
Just reinforce aluminum and design, hazard gone. But all planes of this type, updating ownership would halt operations months.
So management hesitated. During hesitation, accident occurred. 8 passengers died due to management delay.
Watching the video, Lamcam broke out in cold sweat, uneasy, wanted to ask Van Han if she felt anything special. Before he could, Van Han stood, didn't play, left the car. Not exaggerating, Van Han's every move affected the other 4.
She moved once, they felt uneasy. If not, follow to watch?
Secretary suggested.
Lamcam took phone, led the way, go.
A few minutes earlier, Kyle's family of 3 were still enjoying the lovely vacation they had imagined, when a loud bang erupted and a slab of metal stabbed down between the armrests where his wife and child sat, punching through the carriage floor. Kyle panicked and sprinted to find the conductor. Passengers in the first carriage were frightened too, but, seeing the train still running steady, forced themselves to stay calm.
Meanwhile, Kyle reached the third carriage, agitatedly demanding an
immediate stop. The conductor, torn, replied that the railway company's rules required the emergency brake only after the situation was clarified. Kyle drew a deep breath to steady himself. Reason told him the rule was not wrong. If a train stopped any time one passenger said so, the whole system would descend into chaos. Worse, a sudden brake might cause a rear train to rear-end them. If his problem proved minor but the stop triggered a pileup, the casualties would be far worse. Thinking so, Kyle stopped insisting and urged the conductor to come check it once. At the gangway, Van Han, seized by a bad hunch, turned back and saw the scene. At the same time she noticed death countdowns glowing on many passengers in carriage 3, estimated to die in about 2 minutes 25 seconds, estimated to die in about 2 minutes 26 seconds, estimated to die in about 2 minutes 23 seconds. With time critical she ran first to carriage 4 then 5 to check, there. In both carriages, over 9/10 of the passengers bore countdowns, offset from carriage 3 by roughly 3 to 5 seconds and ticking down. Grasping the danger, Van Han raced to the first carriage, grabbed the conductor. Stop the train now. The conductor refused. Before we understand what is happening, we cannot stop. With only a bit more than a minute left, there was no time to persuade him. Just then the train began to shake violently. Van Han seized the moment. Will you wait till we rattle into pieces? As if I have never ridden a train, this shaking is clearly abnormal. Stop now. She put on a brash, hard to deal with look to force his hand, but he did not budge. Lin Cam, poking his head at the junction between car 1 and 2, grumbled, "What are you doing, running back and forth like you were in a rush?" There was no more time. Save who you can, Van Han deliberately said. I have a bad feeling. I am going to wait in the first carriage. You all come here. She had Just checked car 1 through 5 and confirmed the first was safest. No one inside faced mortal danger. The other cars would suffer casualties more or less. Even the conductor had carried a death timer in thick black fog at first. But once dragged into car 1, the fog thinned and the countdown vanished. Hearing her say she felt uneasy, the group's scalps prickled and they hurried to car 1. Lin Kem muttered as he moved.
Is your feeling accurate or not? A moment ago nothing was wrong. How?
Is it suddenly bad? The first and third carriages were not that far apart. Why would standing in one be safe and in the other not? They had bought seats in car 3. In car 1 they could only stand. Careful, quicker indeed than word. Luke Loy shoved the others hard into the carriage, but he himself failed to retreat in time and was left at the gutter off the rails by car 2.
Lin Kem stared in horror as the second carriage left the track and plunged into the trees. Something happened to
the rear cars as well. A thunderous detonation rolled through the air and chilled every heart. The first carriage kept running and only stopped after a while. Peering out the window, Lin Kem saw several carriages crushed together, another jammed beneath a concrete overpass, train wrecked, bridge broken. With only a glance he saw passengers lying bloodied across the bones of the train. He clapped a hand over his mouth, nausea roiling.
The secretary turned pale and murmured, "If we had stayed in
car 3 and failed to catch up, at last brother." True's conscience stirred and he remembered Luke Loy, who had pushed them into car 1, called for help, get ambulances, then go to car 2 to find Luke Loy. We owe him for that shove. Who knows how he is now? Right, Luke Loy, said Lin Kem, wanting to go, but his stomach churned so hard his legs would not move. I already called the emergency line, the police are on the way. Van Han hung up and soothed the group. Not far away, Kyle,
shocked and furious, roared at the conductor. Did I not do
as you said and bring the train to a stop? If you had listened this would not have happened. The conductor stared, stupefied by the scene before him. In the morning there was an airplane accident, at noon a railway disaster. This one day had been too much for Lin Kem. In the morning, when the crash struck, passengers were sucked out of the cabin so he had not seen death up close. But at noon a single glance out the window branded a gruesome tableau he might never forget. The secretary, white as paper, again wondered whether to travel for work with the boss. Generous allowances still require a life to spend. 2 mishaps in one day left her feeling a looming trauma. She needed a therapist at once. Brother True wished to look for Luke Loy but could not leave Lin Kem, so he waited by his side. As they waited, thousands of rescuers poured in and began their work. After a while Lin Kem's stomach settled a bit. He looked at Van Han and bit out, "From now on, whatever you notice, say it." At once, Van Han was helpless. She had spotted the countdown at barely over 2 minutes. Checking other cars cost time, running to the conductor cost time. Had she convinced him everyone might have been saved, but he was stubborn beyond reason, nothing would move him. Had she not chanced upon the fact that staying in car 1 meant safety, she might have had to jump before the countdown hit 0 just to save herself. A sixth sense is sometimes right, sometimes not. I cannot swear to it, she half joked, half complained. Lin Kem scowled. Forget right or not, just tell me first and I will judge. Fine, I got it, she answered glibly. Whether she could do it was another matter. Beside them, the secretary, after fierce inner struggle, finally came over. Boss, I probably cannot go on this trip. Lin Kem was about to say she was indispensable, but one look at her bloodless face and the shock still stamped on her features made the rebuke die on his tongue. If a grown man like him was shaken, how could a young woman not be? All right, I will approve a fresh week of leave, go rest. He granted a special favor. The secretary's lips trembled as if to say more. In truth she wanted to resign. She could not stand this kind of grind, yet she feared deciding rashly in a wave of emotion and regretting it later. Better to take leave, think it through, and if she still wished to quit then do so after the break with her pay in hand. Thinking so, she eased, "Thank you, boss," on the far side. The injured were carried out one after another, Luke Loy among them. Seeing Lin Kem, he cradled his arm with a wry smile. "Boss, I should get to a hospital first. Feels like a dislocation. Go, I will cover the bill." Lin Kem agreed. Van Han glanced from the groaning wounded of car 2 to Luke Loy and knew at once, the others were truly hurt, but he was acting. He likely had unusual experience and a body above the norm. Seeing everyone else injured, he feared suspicion if he was unscathed, so he claimed an arm injury. Pity for him that she could see through lies at a glance. With that in mind she said nothing, only watched him leave for the hospital. Whether he truly went, who could tell? Lin Kem looked around. Complicated. Now there are only the 3 of us left. The city show had not even begun and half the team was gone. The secretary, Luke Loy, Brother Cao, Thuong Thuong, Tan Tan, plus one lying with eyes shut on the bed. We do not even have luggage, added Van Han. Are we still going to the show? Brother True asked, hoping for the answer he wanted. Go, Lin Kem growled. After all this, if I do not go, I will betray myself. Brother True was struck dumb. In matters of disappointing himself, Lin Kem had never disappointed others. How do we go? Asked Van Han. He hesitated. Planes were out of the question, trains he would rather avoid, maybe drive, by truck, he decided. 4 to 5 days on the road should catch the next show. Whatever we need along the way I will pay. Van Han could not help but sigh that the boss's idle chasing was relentless. If others had that persistence they would have earned enough to buy a helicopter by now. When do we set off? Brother True asked. Surely not today. A shiver ran through Lin Cam. Not today. Today seems unlucky to leave the door. We will find a hotel for the night and rent a truck tomorrow. Congratulations, player, for surviving instance number 121,321, derailment. Because you directly saved 2 humans and indirectly saved 1, your clear rating is the letter C. Reward attribute points, agility plus 0.1, physique plus 0.2. Van Han skimmed and dismissed it, then searched for reports on the accident. After a bit more than an hour of investigation, the cause was pinned down. Fatigue fracture on the outer ring of a wheel caused a sudden burst. Steel shards pierced the carriage, exactly the metal that stabbed through the floor by Kyle's family. Component failure disrupted operation, so the engine separated from the trailing cars. The second carriage merely derailed into the trees. The third leapt onto the adjacent track and rammed a flyover. The span blocked and buried it. Within a few short seconds the following cars derailed in succession and collided. In the end the derailment caused more than 100 deaths and over 80 serious injuries. Nearly no one survived in the other cars, only the first car passengers escaped. Is this world becoming more dangerous? Van Han mused. Inspiration came from the derailment in Eschede, Germany. Thanks to the reader Zhang Zhang comes to proof for the recommendation. Watching that video yielded many useful materials. Someone also recommended the 8-section brocade to me. I looked it up and tried practicing. Just then a barrage comment popped up. Past 2 in the morning. I am practicing health exercises with more than 80 people. Ha 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 ha. I laughed till my side 8. The plane incident and the train derailment happened on the same day. The commotion was truly huge, and the internet was saying everything under the sun. If they had simply switched to a fixed rig mechanism it would have been fine. Now people are dead. Shouldn't the civil aviation company come out and take responsibility? Stop chanting Civil Aviation Company all day. Its full name is the Company of Civil Aviation. It's just an industry label. If you're so capable, list the actual company's name so we can blacklist it and avoid getting struck by lightning again. Frequent business flyers are terrified. Urgently need a lightning avoid list +1. Others said, haven't these past years been kind of ill-omened? Natural disasters, man-made mishaps, accidents frequent. Call it the end times and I'd believe it. About that train, if the steel plate pierced and killed someone, shouldn't they have stopped immediately? Then the people behind wouldn't have died in such numbers. A single stone stirred 1,000 ripples. People chimed in shock. What are you talking about? After it happened, only Kyle ran to find the conductor and demanded a stop. And so what? Other passengers being indifferent doesn't mean they deserve death. Kyle ran back and forth trying to save a whole car of people, yet some even wished his wife or his child would die. Does he deserve to sacrifice his family to save a car full of strangers? This isn't a math problem. Though I want to save those innocent lives, the price shouldn't be another innocent life. Don't think that because you're good at math you can weigh human lives. One day you might become the one chosen for sacrifice. The quarrel raged on. Someone scolded Kyle from another angle. If he wanted the train stopped so badly, why didn't he go pull the emergency brake himself? Weren't there reports that passengers accidentally triggered it before? If the conductor wouldn't agree, he could go pull it. Others replied, the fact it can be mispulled shows ordinary people aren't familiar with it. Have you ever driven a train? Otherwise, how dare you lay hands on what you don't understand? Kyle saw a metal plate, so he should run and pull the brake himself? Next time I see a few loose screws on a ride, should I sprint to yank the emergency brake too? Is it something you can pull just because you want to? Leaving aside whether you even know how, there are so many staff on board, would no one stop him? Pull the brake, save a car of people, then happily sit 7 days in detention? We know you're hot-blooded to save people, but are you pinning too many unreasonable expectations on ordinary folks? If they can't stop an accident,
will you blame Kyle for not vaulting rooftops and scaling walls? He isn't a superhero or a special agent.
Others cursed the conductor. If not for that stubborn old man, the train would have stopped long ago, nothing would have happened and the passengers wouldn't have died. Then came the rebuttal. You're wielding hindsight like a cudgel, arrogantly blaming someone outside your own context. In his position you'd have a more than 90% chance of failing to foresee mass casualties later.
You only say that because you know something did happen. What if nothing had?
The conductor followed railway rules. If you think that's bad, blame the rules, not the person who obeys them. If he breaks rules and something happens, he cannot bear that responsibility.
The argument flared anew.
After skimming around, Van Haan closed the page and went to bed.
After a night at a 5-star hotel and a self-serve breakfast, Lamcam indeed hired a car. Before getting in, face stern, he asked Van Haan, "How do you feel now?"
Van Haan, "Get in, quickly."
"No bad premonitions," he pressed.
She ignored him and took the front seat first.
Lamcam nodded at the bodyguard. "Looks like riding in a car is fine."
If the client weren't a protection target, Brother True really wouldn't care to humor him. 3 people took their seats, the driver focused on the road, and Lamcam began, "I thought all night and something feels off."
"What's off?" Van Haan asked. 2 major accidents in a single day, how likely is that?
Then, and both of them I happened to encounter, how is that reasonable?
Otherwise what?
Van Haan shot back, "Do accidents come knock on your door first and ask, any other accidents scheduled nearby?"
"None."
"Great, I'll come in," or, "There is?"
"Just happened?"
"Then I'll come another day," like that? Lamcam was stumped. The meaning was right, but out of her mouth it sounded bizarre. "Accidents are random, colliding by chance isn't impossible," she said calmly.
"You can't refuse to acknowledge them because the odds are low."
"How can you be so calm?" he asked. "Yesterday you clearly told the conductor to stop. If he'd listened you might have saved them, off by just a bit. Don't you feel unwilling?" "If they're saved, they're saved. If not, they're not." Van Haan took it lightly. Many things are fated, scarcely moved by human will.
Always believing man conquers heaven, Lamcam fell silent.
He glanced at the bodyguard for solace. Brother True nodded. "You did your best even if you couldn't save them."
Doubt crept over Lamcam. Was he the only one who felt regret, annoyance, and sorrow for not saving those passengers?
"Am I the odd one?" he muttered. "I clearly survived thanks to your reminder, yet afterward I desperately hoped you'd persuade the conductor and bring those people back too." "Kindness isn't wrong, but excess kindness burdens you too much," Van Haan said, looking out the window. "Be a person in moderation."
Brother True nodded again. "True." Lamcam was utterly adrift.
Gazing at the passing scenery, Van Haan thought that if she blamed herself every time she failed to save someone, she probably wouldn't be alive now. How could success be guaranteed every time? She had reached out and been snorted at, ignored. Save them if you can, if you can't, then you can't. To berate yourself for failing to save, well, being too kind is its own affliction.
Right, after a while she suddenly recalled, "Are you familiar with Luke Loy?"
Catching the scent of gossip, Lamcam perked up. "Sure."
"Why, you fancy him?"
Van Haan looked him in the eye, solemn. "I already have someone in my heart."
"Oh," he wilted at once. "Then why ask about Luke Loy? How did you two meet?"
"He came to interview for a designer slot. I liked the cut of him and kept him," Lamcam said.
"Do you feel he's unlike others somehow?" she asked.
He thought, strong, maybe? Seeing her puzzled look, he explained, "I'd assumed a homebody like him would lack training, but one noon I caught him weightlifting. I don't know how heavy, looked really heavy, and he picked it up easy." At that, Brother True suddenly asked, "So you befriend him to ask for his weight training secrets?"
Lamcam's eyes burned.
"I want to hoist weights like that too." A vein throbbed on Brother True's forehead. Van Haan sensed his urge to throw hands, yet he held it in. At first she'd thought him a steely sort. With time he felt more like a dad nanny, in charge of wrangling a problem child before trouble. The child was Lamcam, oblivious and yet righteous, exactly. Others must build muscle first to lift. Luke Loy is skinny but strong, so he must have a secret,
once we're close, won't he tell me?
If I were strong, I could protect myself and wouldn't need a bodyguard anywhere. He cut a sideways glare at Brother True, dissatisfaction plain.
Brother True turned his head away, playing deaf. Taking the cargo truck proved uneventful. Lamcam was thrilled. This time we'll be fine.
They set out at dawn and reached the countryside by afternoon. The driver
suggested stopping for the night, since otherwise they'd arrive at the next rest point near daybreak. Okay, we stay, Lamcam agreed. They slept soundly. Next day they pushed on.
After 3 straight days, his energy visibly withered, lively on day 1, flagging on day 2, running on fumes by day 3. Still not there, he groaned that afternoon, sprawled in the seat, voice full of disgust.
Almost, the driver soothed, we've finished half the route. What? Only half? He was aghast.
Only then did he realize, trucks were safe, but gruelingly slow, compared with plane or train, which reach in a few hours. Driving crawls, you sit 7 or 8 hours at a stretch, rest stops are far apart, sometimes 2 or 3 more hours between them. After a day of this he felt awful all over and wished to fling himself off the truck. Bear with it, once we pass the tunnel and drive another day, we arrive, the driver said with confidence. The words didn't help, he longed for someone to bonk him unconscious so he'd doze all the way, shut eyes at departure, open at destination. How perfect would that be? He looked around. Brother True's face was calm, not the least discomfort. Van Han watched the scenery, steady as a rock. The long-haul driver had long been used to 10+ hours in a cab. Thus only he suffered, and he alone couldn't stand it. Yet the show was his idea, the truck his suggestion, so even complaining felt awkward. He swallowed his grievances. After about 20 minutes, they entered the tunnel the driver mentioned. Dawn seemed to break in his heart. But before long they saw a car stopped in the middle, on fire. Why's it empty? Where's the driver? Where are the firefighters? Why aren't they putting it out? The lane was blocked, vehicles behind could only queue. The driver opened his door like the others to lean out and look. After gauging, he said uncertainly, might be a bit. Once the fire crew comes, puts it out, and tows it, we can move. Just then Van Han said, don't wait, turn back. Ha, the driver blinked, but we paid the toll before entering. If we exit and come back we'll pay again. It's only one burning car, put it out and it's fine. At most wait a dozen or so minutes. Sensing something, Lamcam, for once forceful, snapped, do as I say, go back. Before the train accident he couldn't grasp why, when it wasn't that far, the first car could wait but the third couldn't. After it happened, he accepted that the first car was safest. So if you don't understand, don't think, just obey. Same logic for tunnels. Who cares why they can't wait? If Van Han says turn back, then turn back, no reason needed. But there are so many cars waiting inside, it should be okay. The driver tried one more time. I'm paying for the charter, listen to me. Lamcam cut him off. I don't like this tunnel, I want the long way around, alright? Said that plainly, the driver had nothing left to argue and obediently swung them around. The tunnel ran two-way, forward was blocked, but retreat was clear. Before leaving, Van Han lowered the window and raised her voice on purpose. The flames are fierce, what if it explodes later? Let's hurry out of the tunnel and take another road. What is money compared to life? It was deftly said. Those inside the truck knew they had already decided to retreat, so the words were for people outside. Outsiders would think the folks in the cab were consulting. Fearing an explosion, they'd chosen to give up waiting and turn back. Some drivers, spooked by her words, followed suit. But not many heeded the warning. The highway had been inconvenient, thus the government built the tunnel. The toll was already paid. How could they give up at will, turn around and go? Isn't the money wasted? So most drivers stayed put to wait. All Van Han could do was watch and regret as the countdown of death kept ticking over their heads. The car exited the tunnel, switched to a minor route, and ran another hour without danger. Bored, Lamcam pulled out his phone to kill time with Honeypop when a push video popped up. Title stabbing the eyes, tunnel explosion from hauling beef fat and flour, car ablaze, at present 11 dead, 3 injured. Lamcam, and suddenly sitting in a car felt less appealing. Van Han noticed her boss's face change and casually suggested, if even trucks aren't safe, we can only walk. Lamcam stared like, are you talking nonsense? Van Han innocently replied, if you won't even walk to see her, can you still claim you love her? Lin Cam was aghast, even walking just to see an idol. Is that love too far gone? Brother True asked low. So are you walking or not? Walk what? We ride, Lin Cam muttered. Bunch of hard-to-please workers, trying to murder the boss, because they had to detour far. The group took about 6 days to reach the destination, 1 day longer than planned. By the time they arrived at the next city on the mobile tour, Lin Cam was breathless. Brother True checked the tickets. Tonight at 7 the show starts. Lin Cam sprang up. Where's the stuff? Delivered, said Brother True. Originally shipped to the previous city, but since we couldn't make that show I had it forwarded here. Good work. Lin Cam ran off excited to open the crate. What is it? Van Han asked. You don't want to know. Brother True deadpanned, which only made her more curious. Soon Lin Cam returned hugging a case, kept a glow stick for himself and shoved a light board into each of their hands. The boards read, Teacher Kai Lam I love you, Teacher Kai Lam unbeatable. Along the way Van Han had never backed down, but now she involuntarily stepped back, face full of resistance. Why are you spacing out? Take it, urged Lin Cam. Whoever loves Kai Lam can take it. Van Han hid her hands behind her. I'm the boss, Lin Cam declared, and a boss can ask workers to hold lightboards so he can express his love. So this was the truth of the company's support squad, thought Van Han. He's embarrassed to hold a sign yet insists on confessing to his idol, so he picks a compromise, hire workers to do it. Wages paid anyway. No, she said, rare steel in her tone. Can't you be more subtle? If I'm subtle and she doesn't get it, then what? He refused to yield. Then hold it yourself. I won't. Stalemate. Brother True sighed and raised a hand. I'll hold it. I'll hold them both. Okay. Seeing him drop to a knee and lift the board over his head, Lin Cam grudgingly agreed. Lately he had to check Van Han's face for everything, and now just seeing her made him feel a head shorter, afraid to overstep. A glow stick twirl is fine, right? He fussed and passed the stick to Van Han. She said, giving it a shake. Something still felt off to Lin Cam. That posture looked like the next second she'd lead a gang fight with the stick. We're only 3, but we must create the effect of 30. Make the idol feel the heat, feel the love. He drummed into them before heading to the stadium. Van Han's face read, I'm only here to make up the numbers. Brother True hugged the board like ice and seemed about to say, so many demands, why don't you do it yourself? And Lin Cam shut up sulking. On the right he still wondered how it came to this when he was the boss. The obedient assistant Luke Loy was nobly injured, now only Van Han and Brother True remained, and it was already good they weren't ordering him around. Fine then, he consoled himself. At least they're almost there and he'll see Kai Lam in the flesh, and at that thought he brightened. At the stadium gate fans lined up long for checks, emotions high. Lin Cam talked more. I bought VIP seats, guaranteed front rows, others have general admission, first in first pick, come late in the front's gone. So you get middle back rows. Neither Van Han nor Brother True replied, but nearby fans, hearing he had VIP, stared enviously. Many with general admission had arrived since noon to queue and get in fast to grab spots, clutching his tickets. Lin Cam could not wait to enter. Around 4 in the afternoon 2 side doors right of the main gate opened and staff began checking tickets. Elsewhere the crowd grew anxious. For some reason there were especially few checkers that day, so entry was slow and outside swelled. Before 6 the music inside started. Fans thought the show had begun and grew more frantic. The crowd heaved. Charge, someone yelled, and the rear surged forward regardless. The front stuck, unable to advance or retreat. Some shorter folks felt short of breath, vision blurring as they neared a faint. Worse, front and back were packed with no room to withdraw and they drifted helplessly, shoved to and fro. From the start Van Han had warned, if seats are fixed there's no need to fight, wait till they go in and then check. But overexcited, Lin Cam shouted and dove into line, not listening. So when the wave surged he was swept up. Don't push, he cried, I'm about to suffocate. But no one behind backed off and the crush did not ease. Some even climbed others' backs, stepping on shoulders to pass. Chaos everywhere. Watching from the side, Van Han saw gray mist, ashen mist, and black mist tangling. With flickers of death countdowns, she sighed, pulled out her phone and deftly dialed, hello, police. Meanwhile Lin Cam felt someone step on his foot and even saw a petite girl fall, panic rising. He roared again, calm down or something will happen. No one cared, pushed left and right he despaired. After dodging a plane incident, a train disaster, and a tunnel blast, will I lose at a stadium gate? Then 2 big hands wrapped his waist and hoisted him up. Stunned, he saw bodyguard Brother True carrying him like a child and locking him to sit on his shoulders. Don't thrash, too many people, I can't guarantee your safety, Brother True said gravely. The height made breathing easier though he drew stairs, but shame beats death, so Lin Cam sat obediently and let him open a path. Brother True truly had skill, big build and great strength meant the squeeze around him was milder, and he neither rammed in nor got ejected, just picked a corner and waited the crowd back to its senses. Van Han finished the call, borrowed a loudhailer from staff and shouted at the edge, "A girl has fainted from lack of air, bring the girls out first, don't step, someone's underfoot, steady, don't panic." The words were slogans, but volume 1 ears and people slowly listened. Sobered by the scene, they stopped surging and tried to back out. Because the front slope was steep, some were pinned at the very bottom, stacked like R-huts one upon another. Nobody could escape. After some shouting, Van Han saw cooperation and handed the loudhailer to a bystander to keep calling while she rolled up sleeves to help. Stacked bodies were hard to pull free. Only with the ring's help, a push here, a foot on a shoulder or back there for leverage, could they lift one by one. She added strength and drew people out. Time ticked, the situation improved, police arrived to assist, more and more were rescued. Brother True seized a gap and carried the troublemaking boss to safety. Got the danger now. Don't run wild next time, Lin Cam wanted to retort that he wasn't a toddler, but each stunt had been riskier than the last, so he had no standing. He shut his mouth and took the scolding. Van Han said, "I told you not to rush in, but you ignored me." "He only had ears for the live show," snorted Brother True. "Who could hear you? Who knew it would turn out like this?" Lin Kim looked at the groaning on the ground and the unconscious carried off and shivered. The back went mad, ramming forward. Some swung elbows non-stop. "I even took a few." He rubbed his chest. Drained, some fainted from hypoxia, Van Han guessed, and the elbowing was to carve breathing space and avoid suffocating to death. Brother True glanced at the boss. "You dropped the lightboard while struggling." Still going in, Lin Cam no longer felt like it, but if he didn't, what were these days of scrambling and near misses for? Just to visit a gate. "Let's go, we're here anyway," he said, head drooping. By now the entrance was nearly empty, fans either inside or injured and sent by ambulance. Van Han walked in on a clear path. Right then a translucent interface popped up. "Congratulations player, you have survived instance number 122,049 Concert Stampede because you rescued 13 humans. Your clear rating is A. Reward attribute points. Strength plus 0.2, Agility plus 0.2, Constitution plus 0.2, Spirit plus 0.2. Your current attributes: Strength 7.3, Agility 7.1, Constitution 7.5, Spirit 8.1. Once a single attribute reaches 8 and the sum of 4 reaches at least 30, only ratings of S or higher will continue to grant attribute rewards." The indoor stadium roared, air boiling as screams for idols rose like surf. Stepping into the long-awaited concert should have been pure delight, yet Lin Cam, thinking of the injured outside, felt his mood sink and, no matter how he tried, could not blend in. Van Han swung a glow stick with all her might, thinking as she waved that no wonder companies prefer strong bodies, for chasing stars is hard work. The stick may be light, but holding it up and waving non-stop is tiring, and if the stick is like that, then a lightboard is worse. Lucky that last time to save the boss, Brother True had to fling the board away. Van Han herself is no fangirl, and this happened to be heavy metal. Beyond the clamor and din she could not make out much. Fans around her hooped, then shrieked, and her ears throbbed. When the show ended and they walked out, she felt dazed, burdened by worry. Lin Kim pulled out his phone to search news and read, "Ineffective crowd control leads to trampling tragedy, at present 15 dead and 27 injured," which stunned him, and upon tapping in he saw a birthday host had invited friends to the show to party. Yet at the gate the crush made breathing hard. They never even reached the turnstiles before an ambulance rushed them off, and that was considered lucky with only injuries. Others could not breathe and suffocated to death. Worse, someone who fell was trampled dozens of times. The ghastliness made one's skin crawl. He slammed the app closed and stuffed the phone away. Brother True sighed. "Your family told you many times the outside world is dangerous. Do not run around without reason, and you still would not listen," Lin Cam protested. "Before watching this concert I did not know it would be like this." In just a few days so many incidents had piled up, all massive with countless casualties. He wondered if death had him marked, for trouble kept finding him, and sometimes he even suspected, quietly, that this streak of bad luck had come with Van Han, for since she joined, life felt like a horror film, nerves strung taut without a moment to relax. Still, it was only a guess without proof, and if it were mere coincidence he would feel guilty to pin it on her. "I have thought it over. I am going to shut the company and go home," he said quietly, "so do not nag. Gains and losses balance out." After reality knocked him around, his youthful naivete faded and a sorrowing calm like that of a middle-aged man took its place, and he began to compromise with life, seeking lighter, safer ways to survive. Brother True froze, staring at the boss who cursed the heavens as if hearing unexpected good news, for the family had long said that accidents were frequent and trouble easy to spark, but the boss ignored them, believing disaster would not land on him, insisting on starting a company and rallying staff to chase stars. Hence they had to assign 2 bodyguards. The boss roamed from city to city, chasing one celebrity after Another, and though small incidents had happened before and were easily handled, he shrugged them off and kept doing as he pleased. Lately the mishaps were too perilous and wide in scope and Brother True could not cope, yet after several brushes with death the boss finally woke up, agreed to go home, and stopped the antics, which moved Brother True almost to tears because at last his suffering would end. Meanwhile Lin Kim turned to Van Han. I have decided not to run the company, let us part. On good terms, at settlement I will give you 3 extra months of salary. If you are not satisfied, tell me and we will discuss. To which she, who after the concert also wanted to resign and change jobs, said, no need to discuss, let us do it that way, and he exhaled in relief, for whether or not the accidents were drawn by her, his instinct wanted distance. Do not ask why, call it a sixth sense returning from long sleep to whisper warnings. Although the company would close, they were still on a business trip and could not abandon people in another city, yet the thought of riding a coach for 6 days paled his face. Take the train, Van Han suggested. A plane is a plane, if something happens there is nowhere to hide, and he said, all right, I will follow you, then bought his own ticket and chose his own seat, convinced his pick had better luck and would be safer than a random choice, confidence from who knows where. While he obsessed over seating, Brother True came to Van Han and murmured, thanks for the whole way, and she demurred, I did nothing, surviving was everyone's luck, yet he said, even if your sixth sense is hit and miss, hitting again and again is still a gift, and when she paused without replying he added, next time you foresee an accident, try to save more people, it will benefit you, then return to stand guard by the boss. Suddenly she felt he was not just a player but a grateful player, that he knew of the evolution game and of her sensitivity to danger, and that the boss's family likely knew too but could not say it aloud, hence the bodyguards, while the boss, a calf unafraid of tigers, bolted everywhere by plane or by train, and when crises struck, Brother True with all his skills could change nothing, let alone shield the boss. He could barely ensure his own safety. No wonder after the plane incident he kept side-eyeing the boss, radiating a strange air of fed up, done struggling, do not want to work, only want to roast the boss, which, once she understood, made her smile and sympathize in silence. The homeward trip was uneventful, and upon returning to their city of residence they said courteous farewells and she saw off the pitiable boss, who, though not much hurt financially and sound in body, would likely carry scars in his heart, for once concerts equal joy, and henceforth concerts equal chasing stars, desperate flight, and embarrassment. Worst of all, during the trampling, chaos reigned and passers-by shocked by the scene took many photos, and that precious instant with Lin Cam perched on Brother True's shoulders was captured, later pushed to his phone so that opening the feed showed his own face, an expression of utter despair good enough for a hall of shame, and merely recalling such public exposure made Van Han choke on his behalf. Compared with that, escorting the boss for a week felt trivial. Finishing that job, she had planned a short rest when an interview notice arrived. Rare fortune that a company reached out without needing a resume, so she cancelled her break and went to interview at a new firm. It was a food factory hiring for sales, with modest base pay, thin commission, weekends be damned, overtime common and much legwork. No wonder they struggled to recruit. She did not pick and choose, entered with a look first then decide attitude and became a proud intern. At 9 in the morning she was photocopying documents, too new to pitch products so unqualified to seek orders, and the department head assigned chores like stamping, copying papers, and preparing coffee for meetings. As she busied herself, heels clicked closer. The documents are needed immediately, are they ready? And Taiwan, in 2 years before her, poked in. Not yet, Van Han answered evenly. Why so slow? Can you put some heart into your work? The director said the meeting is at 10 and the materials must be ready before then. She checked the time and, calm as ever, added, we will make it, but I need them now. And Taiwan complained, then you can copy first. Van Han stepped aside. I am not in a rush, I can use another machine later, which left the elder colleague choking, for she had hoped to make the newbie hustle and hand the set to her, only to become the one who ought to copy. I have other urgent tasks and no time to copy. Since you are idle, do a set for me first. The elder pushed extra work onto her. All right, once I finish what the leader assigned, I will help you. Van Han stayed unruffled. Somehow that manner alone irked the elder, who snapped, do mine first, and heard, I am not free, I must complete the task assigned by leadership before I can lend a hand, which forced the elder to swallow her pride. Unable to claim her job trumped the director's, and she left cursing, slow at work, quick with the mouth. With this time it would be done already. When the room emptied, Van Han copied and mused whether this counted as workplace bullying, for the boss had set a deadline and a veteran still barged in to move it up. And in such a small team, whom should one heed? Does everyone think their word is the main course all must obey? Too bad she does not indulge such habits, so she proceeded at ease and by the book, despite the elder's claim of urgency as if the factory would fold in the next breath. Van Han methodically finished collating the packets and nothing exploded. Near meeting time she brewed coffee in the pantry when arguing flared outside. The elder: "You cur, you pulled dirty tricks behind my back, do not think I do not know," a weary male voice. "Who in this place does not know you like to bully junior staff with thinner resumes? Have you made enough of a scene? Can you calm down and talk properly?" The elder: "I have nothing to say to you, we shall see," after which silence fell and the heels clicked away. Van Han pretended not to hear and kept brewing. Then came the account of the Mont Blanc tunnel fire in France in the year 1999 as I understand it. First, a truck hauling butter and flour self-ignited mid-tunnel and the driver fled. Second, cameras at one portal had failed the previous night, so firefighters could not see the interior, only that there was a blaze. Third, by experience most die of hypoxia from dense smoke, so in the absence of clear information they pumped in oxygen. Fourth, flour plus butter plus flame plus oxygen equaled an explosion. Anyone hearing it could only say, terrifying. In truth, the most miserable this time was not the boss but the young bodyguard. 10 o'clock sharp, the meeting officially began. Attending were all 4 members of the sales department: the male director, 33 years old, in charge of work assignments, and Tai Van, female, 28, a sales clerk with 2 years of experience, Din Tien Not, male, 26, also a sales clerk with 1 year in the company, and the new intern, Van Han. Our factory handles food processing. These are the client's orders, each of you go contact them, best if you can sign a deal," said the director, dividing the thick stack of documents equally between Tai Van and Din Tien Nut, flipping through the papers. And Tai Van sneered, "Director, this isn't right, these are all tough clients, each one harder than the last." The director frowned. "Nissen, that's not the right attitude, you can't pick the easy jobs and fear the hard ones. If it's about fairness," she challenged, glancing at Din Tien Nut, "then let's switch files." "I don't agree." Before Din Tien Not could speak, the director interjected, "Every client has a different temperament. I assign them according to your working styles. If you switch, it'll only cause trouble." "I'm not afraid of trouble." She lifted her chin. "I just hate people playing tricks behind my back. You and that temper." The director sighed. Din Tien Not spoke up. "Director, if she wants to switch, let's switch," and handed over his folder. "If you've got that much energy, I'll add another top priority client for you. The new girl just started, you guide her. If anything goes wrong, I'll hold you responsible," the director warned, and Tai Van glanced at Van Han, immediately annoyed, muttering a reluctant fine. The meeting ended, everyone left first, leaving Van Han to tidy up, unexpectedly, and Tai Van returned, circling Van Han with disdain. "You've entered society now, not school, learn to dress up. How much your clothes and jewelry cost defines how much you're worth." Van Han blinked at that. Strange logic, judging wealth by appearance? "I've never cared what others wear or mine about it, that's you." And Tai Van cut her off. "In our line, you must look not poor, only then will people talk to you and respect you. Look at you, cheap market clothes, no jewelry, no watch, no car, nobody will even speak to you. First lesson, wrap yourself up. After work, buy new clothes and accessories, and put some makeup on," she said and left on her high heels. Van Han, wearing custom clothes with no label worth 5 figures, could only think. A salary of a few thousand yet expected to spend tens of thousands on looks. This company really knows how to play. When work ended, Van Han decided to follow that advice, went shopping, and dressed herself up, not for vanity, but out of curiosity about what else this bizarre company would do. Just as she finished, the director approached, smiling. "Van, still getting used to our department? I'm meeting a client later, come along and observe, you'll learn faster." Van Han looked at her watch. "Director, it's after hours already." "Precisely, that's when you can improve yourself," he insisted. "I'll get the car, meet me at the gate." Minutes later, he pulled up but saw no one waiting, so he called her. The call connected and Van Han's calm voice came through. "Director, I've got other plans, can't join, maybe next time." Then hung up. The director stared at the phone, speechless. Meanwhile Van Han pocketed her phone, muttering, "If you can, fire me, unpaid overtime." What a joke. The next day, Van Han showed up in branded clothes, name tag shining, anything but modest, inside the office, and Tai Van sat slumped, dark circles under her eyes, hand on her head, clearly hungover. Van Han slowed her steps, half guessing but still asked, "What happened?" "Went drinking with the director and clients last night, signed a big deal, drank till dawn," and Tai Van mumbled sleepily. Van Han was stunned. "How much does this company pay you to work yourself to death? If you do it best. she answered matter-of-factly. Van Han couldn't understand, trading her health for the company's profit. What kind of work spirit was that? Employee of the year, indeed. But Taiwan ignored her sympathy, leaning lazily. Go make me a cup of coffee. Van Han didn't move, instead asked, is it my imagination, or do you only bully people when you're in a bad mood? And Taiwan raised an eyebrow. No imagination, you're right, I do it on purpose. We're colleagues, that's not appropriate, Van Han said, and Taiwan scoffed. Young people these days believe in freedom and equality. Nonsense. The workplace is a jungle. Those higher up, stronger, have the right to order the weak around. If you don't like it, quit. Then by your logic, if the director treats you unfairly, you deserve it? Van Han asked innocently. Jungle law, after all, the director's higher up, making her the weaker one, meaning she deserves to be mistreated, whether drunk or furious. And Taiwan's vision blurred. Before she could snap, Van Han darted off. All she could do was shout after her, idiot. Can't you talk properly? Don't want to survive here, huh? On the rooftop, Din Tian not handed the director a cigarette. Both men laughed and smoked contentedly. You were right, director, you predicted in Taiwan's reaction perfectly, Din praised. Trivial matter, said the director, pretending modesty. That woman's only good at drinking and closing small deals. She saw the files and threw a fit, as if I'd really favor someone in plain sight. Lucky she spoke up to switch, but what if she hadn't? Din asked. At lunch, when the office is empty, can't you just swap a few pages between the stacks? The director chuckled. If she complains later, I'll play dumb. Her problem. Din grinned. Genius, plenty more tricks to learn. The director puffed and sneered. She's a nuisance, always demanding high sales. Even I must watch her moods. She fell in my hands. Deserves it. Now she vents on rookies, ruining her own reputation. She even claims I make her life hard. Who'd believe that? Everyone knows she's bossy and loves to bully others. Me tolerating her is kindness. No boss treats staff better than I do. Both laughed slyly. Heard there's a new club opening downtown. Let's go together sometime, Din said. You're learning fast. The director guffawed, the air filled with cheerful arrogance. Behind the rooftop, Van Han, escaping upstairs to avoid Taiwan's temper, accidentally overheard everything. She'd thought it was just one bad coworker. Turns out, they were all rotten. From the director's tone, even Taiwan suffered under him, hiding in the shadows. Van Han pieced it together. The director and Din Tian not teamed up, framing and exhausting Taiwan, reaping profits while she slaved. Din Tian not flattered his boss, earning perks easily, and Taiwan worked, drank, and burned herself out for nothing. She might be a victim, but not innocent. After being crushed, she took it out on the new girl. The whole place was one food chain. Big fish devour small shrimp get eaten. Her earlier words about jungle law were harsh but true. This department worships survival of the fittest. Haven't seen such an entertaining company in ages, Van Han thought, excitement rising. Too bad I'm not at the bottom, I'm the apex predator. Let's see who wins, the director's alliance or Taiwan. To her, Taiwan's best move was quitting and finding a healthier place. But since she stayed, the clash was inevitable. The longer it dragged on, the sooner the explosion would come. When the lunch break ended, Van Han returned to the office while Taiwan washed her face, fixed her makeup, and sipped her coffee, her whole expression brightening again. Seeing Van Han, she looked both impatient and disdainful yet helpless, saying, I have to meet a client later. Do you want to come? Since there was still a long time before the end of the day, Van Han thought it wouldn't interfere and agreed. And Taiwan drove while Van Han sat in the passenger seat. Neither spoke for a while until Taiwan suddenly snapped, Are you going to work overtime or not? What kind of attitude is that toward your senior? Don't you know how to respect others? Van Han replied calmly, respect is mutual. If you don't respect me, I don't have to respect you either. And Taiwan was speechless. Indeed, that hit a nerve. She used to think the rumor about new graduates shaking up the workplace was nonsense, but now she had to admit it. Changing tack, she said, do you still want to become official staff? With a temper like that, you can't even take a little criticism. How can the director approve you? Van Han said evenly, I will. The company's short on staff, the pay is low, and demands are high. No one else wants to come except me. And Taiwan grew angrier, mocking, so slick with your tongue. I bet you're good at negotiations too. When we meet the client, don't panic. You can't just bully coworkers and go mute outside. Van Han asked, you work hard and sign so many contracts, so who earns more, you or Ding Tianyi? Before she could finish, Taiwan slammed the brakes and glared. But Van Han kept going. When the director asks you to meet a client, does the performance count for him or for both of you? For him, and Taiwan said through tight lips, eyes flashing resentment but adding, it's normal for colleagues to help each other. I help him now. One day he'll return the favor. It's not a loss. Van Han, sounding bored, said, I don't believe in one day.
I only see that in the whole sales department, you do the most work, have the hardest days, and get paid the least. You nitpick me for everything. This is wrong, that is ugly, yet I'm the one enjoying my life. You follow your own high standards, but I don't see you improving much. Get out, and Tyvan shouted furiously. I'll send you the address, go on your own. Van Han opened the door and stepped out, and Tyvan hit the gas and left her behind. Van Han thought, she can insult others freely but can't stand being hit where it hurts. What she resents isn't wrongdoing but the unfairness she suffers. A new breed of villain indeed. Enlightening. They met the client at a bar. The place was dim with loud music, clearly not proper, and Tyvan even booked a private booth, convenient for talking. At the entrance she checked her reflection again, catching a glimpse of Van Han with clear annoyance, thinking how much she hated dragging the rookie along but endured it anyway, saying, once inside, watch and speak less. If you mess things up in front of the client, I can't save you. I'm always well behaved. Nothing bad will happen, Van Han replied without concern, making Tyvan roll her eyes. Ever since taking her on she felt 3 years older. Nothing went smoothly. She regretted swapping the file that day. Better to handle a troublesome client than deal with this girl. Frustrated she went in. Van Han followed quietly. Wherever the senior went she followed. They entered the booth and met Mr. Duong. Mr. Duong, sorry to bother you again, and Tyvan started, but he raised his glass. Come, let's drink first. Wine builds bonds. When the drink's right, everything's easy. Her smile faltered then widened. Of course, I'll drink with you till you're satisfied. Soon they finished a bottle. He called for more and, seeing Van Han, asked, and who's this? A new colleague. Just here to learn, she said. He asked, why isn't she drinking? She hesitated, then Van Han said, I'm allergic to alcohol, can't drink. If you don't mind I'll toast you with tea. Mr. Duong set down his glass, displeased. That's no fun. You know I like drinking and still bring someone who can't. What's that supposed to mean? She quickly explained. She's an intern, doesn't know better. But no worries, I'll drink enough for both of us. He calmed, but Van Han spoke up. Doing business doesn't need this much drinking. If the product's good and the price fair, sign. If there's an issue, say so, we can discuss. Drinking only hurts your stomach. He stared, fuming. What kind of employee talks like that? She tried to smooth things over, signaling Van Han to leave. Didn't you say you had something at home? Go ahead, I'll handle this. Van Han only said, drink less, it's bad for you, then left. Mr. Duong raged, fire her immediately. Of course, I'll tell the director. She agreed happily, having long disliked the girl, thinking it's just one drink. What's the big deal? Drink then vomit later if needed. Offending the client deserved firing. She was secretly delighted, apologized for her, then drank on, one glass after another, until suddenly Mr. Duong clutched his stomach in pain. My belly. Why does it hurt so much? Though flushed, she was still sober enough to panic, trying to call an ambulance when the door opened and Van Han entered. The ambulance is here, get him on, already, he gasped. She said coolly, told you too much alcohol harms your stomach. You wouldn't listen. That made him even more frightened, wondering if she could tell the future, because how else did she call the ambulance in advance? And Tyvan was equally confused. The medics arrived and carried him out. She didn't dare interfere, just watched anxiously. After he was taken away she hurried after calling his name. At the hospital in a private VIP room, inside his wife was scolding him affectionately yet sharply. Drink, you'll drink yourself to death. Brilliant, you drank a hole in your stomach. Honey, I was just doing business, they forced me to drink a bit. A bit? Eureka booze head to toe. Who are you fooling? Did you bathe in it? Really? I had to drink, they insisted. Then stop doing business. What's the point of all that money if you drink till you die? You think I'll raise our son and remarry with your inheritance? How old are you? Still acting like a young man? Got it. From now on if anyone offers me a drink I won't touch it. Anyone who insists won't be my friend. That's more like it. Outside, the thin door barely muffled their voices. Van Han heard every word. Beside her and Tyvan's face turned pale at the mention of forced drinking, inviting drinks. Moments later the wife stepped out, kind-eyed, asking, you're the one who called the ambulance, right? I don't know how to thank you. The doctor said if we'd been late it could have been dangerous. Luckily the ambulance was nearby. As soon as he said his stomach hurt they came. But how did you think to call so soon? People who drink often usually have bad livers. I saw his face turning yellow and got worried. She nodded. Knowing her husband too well, those excuses about being forced to drink were nonsense. He simply couldn't control himself. Anyone watching him drink like that would be anxious. If he died they'd have to bear the blame, so calling early was sensible. What business were you discussing anyway? We're from a food processing factory, hoping to renew next year's contract with Mr. Duong. But we hadn't started yet. The wife frowned, annoyed. So you gathered just to drink again? Enough, we've always bought from your company, the quality's fine, the price fair, next year we'll keep buying, come tomorrow and I'll sign, thank you, madam," said Van Han, while in Taiwan, pale and hungover, stood aside trembling. The wife, understanding her husband's habits, didn't scold further, only said, "Next time if he tries to drink while talking business, stop him, and if you can't, call me. I'll handle him myself." "Yes, I'll remember." Van Han nodded seriously, looking like she was ready to report any time Mr. Duong touched another glass. The manager was furious, scolding in Taiwan without mercy. "Tell me, what kind of mess is this? You went to meet a client, drank until he ended up in the hospital, and you're the one who called the ambulance," and Taiwan kept silent, obediently listening, though in truth she was innocent. Director Duong was notorious for his drinking, anyone dealing with him had to drink until he was pleased. She had even been taught before, with a man like him, don't waste words, just drink. When he's happy, he'll sign the contract. But now that he's in trouble, they turned around and blamed her for not stopping him. The problem was, would she dare to stop him? If she had, maybe he wouldn't have gone to the hospital, but the contract would have fallen through, and she'd still be blamed. The manager stomped angrily. "I even asked you to mentor the new girl, but your performance isn't even as good as hers." Hearing that, and Taiwan glanced at Van Han, her eyes filled with hidden resentment, while Van Han thought helplessly, "He's scolding you, why glare at me?" The manager sighed. "Enough. Think about what you've done. The boss told me a few days ago that he wanted to promote one of our staff to senior sales rep with a 500 raise, but with you like this, how can I recommend you?" Her spirit lifted. She said firmly this was just an accident and would never happen again. The manager nodded meaningfully. "Do well, I still have high hopes for you." She understood. The sales department had 4 people, the manager led. Van Han was an intern, so the real candidates were her and Din Tien Not. She thought proudly, she had 2 years of experience, Din only 1. When tough clients appeared, he always needed her help. Remembering the times she'd accompanied the manager drinking with clients, she smiled, sure that the promotion was a reward for her loyalty, and the scolding earlier was just frustration at bad timing. Having figured that out, she vowed never to make another mistake. At lunch, Van Han stopped her, puzzled. "This whole Duong incident wasn't your fault, but the manager still blamed you. Why not quit?" And Taiwan flicked her hair proudly. "Only losers run away like beaten dogs. I just had bad luck. Why should I quit?" Van Han stared in surprise, and Taiwan sneered. "And who are you to talk?" Pretending to care but clearly happy I messed up. Van Han was stunned. She couldn't understand why she was being treated as an enemy. She finally said softly, "You know, the manager isn't a good man," and Taiwan shrugged. "I know he sometimes treats Din unfairly, gives me the harder clients, but that's fine. Not everything can be fair, and last time I helped him handle a client, soon after he talked about promoting me, give and take, right?" Van Han warned. "He's darker than you think. That position may not be meant for you," then turned away, and Taiwan dismissed it. "You've barely been here. What do you know? You're not even official yet. Don't act smart with me." With the carrot dangling in front of her, she worked even harder, every day either meeting or chasing clients, contracts piling up. One after another, success so close she could taste it. That afternoon she met another client, at a bar again, smiling brightly. "Mr. Vaughn, long time no see. Thank you for your continued support." "Good, good, come on, let's drink," he said, raising his glass. Suddenly, she laughed bitterly, thinking of Van Han. But could she refuse to drink like her? Of course not. Irritated, she gulped another. "Why so far away? Come closer, let's chat," he said, sliding over, his hand brushing her thigh. Her expression changed instantly, but before she could react, the booth door slammed open with a loud crash. A woman stood there, face twisted in fury. Seeing her, Mr. Vong shrank back, hiding his hands. The woman hurled her leather bag at him. "So your meeting this afternoon was with your mistress, huh? I'll beat you, shameless old dog." Mr. Vong scrambled away as she chased him around. "You think I don't know you? You're old enough to be her father and still chasing fresh meat." And Taiwan finally spoke up. "This is a misunderstanding. I'm an employee from the food processing plant. We're here to discuss business." "Yes, that's right, just business," Mr. Vong echoed, but his wife snorted. "Discuss business? Alone, drinking, touching her leg?" "Sure." He kept running, taking blow after blow, crying out pitifully, the furious at having been groped, and Taiwan couldn't just stand there, so she stepped forward to stop it. The wife paused, smirking. "I'm not hitting you because I don't hit women, but don't think stepping in makes you noble. You helped him, that's already too much." And Taiwan said calmly, "He's an important client, I just wanted to protect him." So it's mutual affection, huh? "I'm just the villain separating lovers." The wife laughed coldly, glaring at her husband. "Well done, old man.
still charming enough to win a girl's loyalty. Why don't you divorce me and give her your spot? Then stormed out, leaving him chasing after her. Honey, wait, left behind, and Tyvan sighed. What a mess, she thought it was over, but the next day, the manager called her in, face dark. Mr. Vong said you used seduction to close deals. What do you say? Shocked, she protested. He was the one who made a move, his wife caught him red-handed. The manager's tone was cold. According to him, your behavior caused the misunderstanding. I gave you a chance, but you disappointed me, she snapped. You assigned me such a difficult client on purpose. The room went silent. The manager narrowed his eyes. Didn't I tell you each client is assigned based on your style?
Wasn't it you who insisted on stealing the client from Din Tien Not?
I told you not to swap files, yet you did. Now you blame me, he glared. Are you even thinking straight? She opened her mouth but no words came. He sighed. I'll report that the promotion goes to Din Tien Not. As for you, reflect on yourself, then waved her away, walking aimlessly through the streets. She couldn't understand how everything had turned against her. She'd been so close to success, now the promotion and raise were gone, taken by Din, leaving her humiliated. Turning a corner, she bumped into him, almost apologized, but stopped, her eyes red. What did you do? Din looked innocent. Nothing, the promotion was yours, but you made a mistake. That's life. Those who work more err more, those who work less err less, those who do nothing never fail. I don't have to be great, just wait for you to fall. She trembled with rage, teeth grinding, but helpless. He leaned in close, whispering, what's the point of working so hard for deals? Better to please the manager. At least he takes care of his own. Short words, heavy meaning. Her eyes widened. He chuckled and walked away. Keep dreaming. Fools like you get sold and still count the money. She stood frozen, whispering bitterly, you've all forced me to this. Months earlier, and Tyvan had a stroke of fortune. At noon, after meeting a client, she went to a nearby canteen, heard there was braised hyacinth beans with pork, liked the look of the sauce and ordered it. When the dish arrived, she took one bite and found the beans half raw with a strange taste, so she dropped her meal and argued with the manager. He insisted the food was fine and that her taste buds were the problem. Unwilling to swallow the slight, she blocked the serving window to stop others from buying and grabbed the manager to quarrel. After a long tussle, the canteen still refused to budge. In a flash of temper, she meant to pull out her phone to call the police, and just then an old man collapsed, his tray still holding unfinished beans. Someone just toppled over and you still claim nothing's wrong, she demanded. The director of the canteen nearly accused them of staging a scam, but before the words left his mouth, 6 or 7 more people went down one after another. Children, adults, the young, the elderly, seated at different tables, clearly not one group. Their orders were different and colorful. The only common point, all had braised hyacinth beans with pork. If hyacinth beans aren't cooked through, they cause food poisoning. This is no joke. Catching a glimpse of staff trying to clear plates, and Tyvan snapped coldly, don't touch that. This is evidence. Everyone look, they want to clear it away and destroy the traces. While people called the police and ambulances, the canteen roiled with noise. Later the victims were taken to the hospital. Tests confirmed half-raw beans were to blame. The manager apologized to each of them. Originally she would not have let it go so easily, but a transparent interface suddenly floated before her eyes. Welcome to the evolution game. Congratulations, player, you survived instance number 115,750 hyacinth bean food poisoning incident. Because you identified the source of the accident, stopped others from buying, and prevented the danger from spreading, sparing more people from harm, your clear rank is A. Rewards, Strength plus 0.2, Agility plus 0.2, Constitution plus 0.3, Spirit plus 0.2. Note 1. Only when a player has at least one clear rank of A or higher will they learn of the evolution game's existence. Note 2. With a clear rank of B or below, a player only receives attribute points and cannot learn that the evolution game exists. Note 3. Baseline attributes for an adult female: Strength 0.5, Agility 0.5, Constitution 0.5, Spirit 0.8. Crossing thresholds of 3, 6, 9 and any single attribute awakens a special ability. Note 4. Do not reveal the evolution game to non-players or to players without an A-tier clear rank. Indiscriminate disclosure may trigger consequences too serious to predict. At first she thought her body had a problem and secretly did a full checkup. The result, she was stronger, ran faster. Years of drinking damage not only reversed to her prime in her early 20s but surpassed it. When talking to clients, her revolving intuition caught their intent more precisely. She told no one, kept it to herself. But
NK
now,
Books. Careless disclosure may bring severe, unknowable consequences? How severe? Enough to leave someone bedridden for months, temporarily unable to work. I am truly curious.
Her words sounded like a child's innocent thirst to explore the unknown, but her expression was anything but playful.
Another fine day dawned, early in the morning. Din Tian not leisurely brewed coffee in the pantry. Ever since he was sure of a promotion and a raise, the sky seemed bluer, the water clearer, the hills greener, even the air fresher. You think you've already won? A low voice cut in. Without turning, he knew who spoke. He sighed. You botched your work badly, that's why. You missed the promotion and the raise. No matter how you flail, people won't take your side. His manner was easy, the unruffled air of a winner. So many accidents these years. Even if you clinch a promotion, you may not live to enjoy it. And Taivan said softly, her gaze like venom, maybe this is actually a round of the evolution game, the creator sifting and culling the powerless at the bottom so only the elite survive. He chuckled and, in all seriousness, replied, then here's my tale. Long before accidents, the selection already began. Sharp minds gather wealth, good looks marry into power. The healthy wed and have children, those with no money, no skills, no brains cannot marry at all. Is that not also a selection? In the end, winners hold wealth, looks, health, and wits together. Losers are culled and left with nothing. Tell me, is my story not more frightening than yours?
Without waiting for her answer, he lifted his cup and left the pantry, ending the talk unilaterally. The next day he carried an invoice to find the production director. A food processing plant actually splits into several departments, each with its own director. Sales handles external clients, production oversees production itself, how much stock sits in the warehouse, and if there is none, how many days to produce. Such matters are theirs. With a fresh contract in hand, he needed to coordinate with production to guarantee delivery on time. He stepped into the elevator like a regular, pressed a floor, and studied the invoice. After a long wait, the car did not move. He looked up, the floor button did nothing, the door button also failed. Cornered, he used the in-car phone to call for maintenance. Someone happened to be on duty and promised to come at once. He figured he could just wait a moment, but then the cabin jolted violently out of norm and the light died. A chill crawled up his spine. Maintenance arrived quickly, pried the doors, and pulled him out, just as he exhaled. In relief, a thunderous crash sounded and the car plunged. He and the tech stared at each other. The tech hesitated. No idea what happened yet. If I'd come a touch later, you might have gone down with it. His hair stood on end, a sheet of cold sweat across his back. At noon break, he slipped to the roof for a smoke. What's this, sneaking up here without me? The director arrived too, joking, confident of your promotion, so you plan to toss the matchmaker over the wall. There is a local saying, the bride enters the room, the matchmaker gets tossed over the wall, meaning ingratitude. He meant to tap the younger man. On any other day, Din Tian Not would already be cowed and swear loyalty, but not today. Ran into a few mishaps and almost died. Came up to take the edge off, he said, still shaken. The director was surprised. What happened? An elevator drop, then a falling object in the lobby almost hit my head. 2 brushes with death in one day, and it so happens this morning in Taiwan came spouting oddities, saying accidents are everywhere, that even with a promotion one may not live to enjoy it. That maybe this is an evolution, a game where only elites survive. I'm starting to wonder whether I did something unethical, she noticed, and got cursed for it. Nonsense, the director barked, recommending you as proper and lawful and followed procedure. As he spoke, he glared a warning, keep your mouth shut outside. Realizing he had misspoken, the younger man laughed it off. Look at me, rattled into babbling. Good, as long as you get it, the director eased. Life cannot dodge every surprise. Stop brooding lest you invite real trouble. You'll be officially promoted soon. Do the recent orders well and give nobody a handle. All right, I'll stay and work late tonight, he said, wanting the job done so clean no one could nitpick. That's the spirit. Young people shouldn't scare themselves into mistakes. The director soothed, then dropped the matter. He thought it was settled. Yet the next morning, Van Han arrived early and found Din Tian Not dead in his office, body already stiff. Emergency calls flew, workers buzzed in panic. Soon the findings came out. The police said years of drinking, late nights, and erratic habits led to myocardial infarction, and because he had stayed alone to work late, when the attack struck there was not even someone to call an ambulance. Had someone helped call quickly and rushed him to the hospital, perhaps he would not have died. So, a man fine yesterday, gone overnight, the director stammered. Only yesterday he thought the kid too young and fragile. Now, with death at his elbow, he felt the true dread of disaster at arm's length, a fear no casual words disperse. So cut down the late nights, drink less, and spare your health, the police concluded and closed the case. The director's head throbbed, since overtime was voluntary after hours. Was it on the job or off the clock?
there would likely be disputes. He meant to find the factory boss to discuss next steps, but Van blocked his way. With Din Tian not gone by accident, only I remain his rival. With my seniority in sales, it seems I must put my name forward, she declared without flinching. The director flared. A colleague you saw day in day out has just died and you feel no grief at all. Is promotion and pay all you can think about? She suddenly raised her voice. I don't understand why what should be mine you refuse to give, forcing me to seize it myself. If the director were fair and upright, why would she need so many maneuvers and so much effort, only to look as if she were greedy for what she should not take? The director choked for words. Worse, the way she now faced him felt like judging a weakling when reason failed. Use other means to protect one's own interests. The sort of weakling who strikes back. I'm busy arranging his affairs. Promotions can wait. He cut the topic and hurried off. So even without Din Tian not promotion, and a raise still would not have come to me. She seemed suddenly to see through it and laughed at herself. After a day of back-and-forth quarrels with the family of Din Tian not busy until the compensation figure was finally set, the manager, finding a lull, wanted a proper heart-to-heart with Van. She looked at him long and deep, smiled unreadably. All right, we're about to get off work anyway, let's find a skewer place and have a good chat. Then turned to Van Han. You coming too? An after-work get-together. And after a brief pause Van Han agreed, so the three set out, the manager and Van each driving, with Van Han in the manager's car. About 10 minutes later the manager suggested, let's do this place. All right, said Van. They went to park while Van Han, en route, received a call from Mr. Duong's wife and stepped aside to answer. The anxious voice said, my man loves to drink too much, I still can't rest easy, others see him as the boss and may not dare to tattle. Could you keep an eye out for me? If colleagues mention him drinking in front of you, please tell me. Van Han was baffled. Mr. Duong had a perforated stomach and drank himself into the hospital. He shouldn't drink again. Adults ought to have basic judgment. Drink again and it's not the hospital but a funeral. Mr. Duong's wife sighed, and the sigh had much unspoken bitterness. People say gambling is hard to quit. I think drink is no different. I've urged him to abstain for many years, but he keeps that same habit, always sneaking a drink behind my back and never truly quitting. Van Han listened seriously, now and then. Wow, how could he do that? To keep the rhythm, feeling like a kindred spirit, the wife spoke more and more, condemning her husband's vices, from concealment and deceit to colluding with others to put on plays to fool her, and time slipped by without notice. Meanwhile the manager and Van, cars parked, walked shoulder to shoulder toward the barbecue, whether spurred by Din Tian not's death or frightened by Van's change in attitude, the manager grew polite. Shawn, everything can be discussed. That senior sales position isn't impossible to give you. I was too busy then and my head didn't turn fast enough. Later I thought about it and in our sales department who but you deserves it. Of course it should be yours, she smiled. It's not important, I've thought it through. That senior sales title isn't something I must have. Once she had blamed her misfortune on rival Din Tian not, but only after his death did she realize the manager was the greater evil. With him around her days would never be good. And truly, why cling to promotion to senior sales? If the manager's chair wouldn't change hands, wouldn't it be better for her to sit in it? Outwardly she agreed to find a place to talk, but inwardly she had resolved to let slip the evolution game, so the manager, like Din Tian not, would die quietly. When she first heard of Din Tian not's death she panicked for a heartbeat, not from fear of death near her but of being implicated and investigated, yet replaying it all she had done nothing suspicious, so the police had no reason to doubt her. Thus she relaxed and began a new round of hunting. As for whether the manager would make it, after learning of the evolution game, Din Tian not first met a falling elevator, then a high-altitude object, and finally died of a coronary blockage, with accidents striking in such dense succession that even a manager could hardly dodge them all. Chatting in snatches, she calculated how to steer the topic to the game, best of all with Van Han present so she could say at once to both. The manager suddenly broke a sweat. I know I did many wrong things before, I realize it now and I'll change. Do you think the curse could just curse? She halted and looked at him. Before he died, Din Tian not mentioned it to me, but don't worry, I didn't tell anyone, he hurried to explain. From now on I'll treat you well. Can the curse be lifted for me? At first she didn't follow, then her face changed. She had just meant to edge away when a great bang erupted, the shop front glass burst, a wave roared out, and both were flung far. The manager cried in misery. Why, I said I'd be good to you, why won't you let me go? Then turning saw her sprawled and badly hurt, face all blood. His heart went cold, she couldn't even save herself. How could she save him? Retribution. This is all retribution, he laughed in bleak despair.
then collapsed and never opened his eyes again. Not far off, hearing the explosion, Van Han hung up and rushed over to find the whole street ravaged, shards glittering across the ground, more than a dozen people down, some unconscious with grave wounds, some coughing blood with lesser ones, all in bad shape. Onlookers guessed a shop's cold gas had exploded and blasted the block. There were still people inside and ambulances were already on the way. Van Han found the manager grievously injured and not breathing, and in Taiwan lying to one side with what looked like serious wounds. Hold on, the ambulance will be here any moment. As Van Han leaned in, and Taiwan grabbed her clothes and gasped, this world is actually running a game, an evolution game. Every accident and incident forces humanity to evolve. If you don't clear the trials and can't evolve, you'll be eliminated. Din Tian not is dead, the manager is dead. Next it should be your turn. Van Han paused. Did you kill Din Tian not? She chuckled low. I only meant to keep him in bed for a few months. Who knew he'd be gone? Gone is fine too. With one less degenerate the world is better. And the manager, was that you too? On the brink of death there was nothing to hide. I had planned to send him to meet Din Tian not, but I hadn't yet put it into action. The manager must have heard something from Din Tian not, then met a major incident and dragged me into it before dying. At the end she looked at Van Han, smiling with fulfilled delight, and forced out, I'll wait for you in hell. Van Han said calmly, I've long known about the evolution game, so I'll be fine. The smile on Taiwan's face froze. She suddenly remembered the time Mr. Duan drank himself into the hospital and it was Van Han who first called the ambulance. Back then she'd only said his complexion looked bad and so no suspicion arose. But now everything seemed prefigured. With that thought clear, and Taiwan tilted her head, eyes wide, dead and unavenged, Van Han took in the ruins and shivered inwardly. This year large-scale incidents with countless casualties had struck across the Federation. Was it because players couldn't keep their mouths shut and leaked the secret? Rescuers toiled until nightfall to get the injured to hospitals. The final tally showed the dead were 18 and the wounded 33. With that, aside from Van Han, the entire sales department was wiped out. Unexpectedly the boss happened to be nearby and hurt his leg, needing to lie abed for 2 to 3 months. Workers panicked about whether the factory would close, and at the critical moment the boss's wife stepped in, issuing quiet orders and arranging daily tasks. She even converted the sales department into a warehouse for sundries. This isn't superstition, it's caution. As the person in charge I care equally for every worker's safety. The workers were moved and found her reliable. Let the boss lie a few more days. If he never comes back, fine as well. Once she had soothed everyone and the plant resumed normal operation, the boss's wife asked Van Han privately about her plans and said she could make exceptions if a transfer was desired, but Van Han declined. Too many things have happened lately, I want to rest for a while. The boss's wife comforted her and added an extra month's pay, and an idea bloomed in Van Han's mind. Each stint of work lasted as short as a week and as long as half a month, and upon quitting she could still take 1 to 3 months of salary. Living like that wasn't bad, though it did spend the boss, the leaders, and the colleagues a bit. With Taiwan dead the affair had ended, yet problems exposed remained unsolved. For instance, she only told Din Tian not about the game. The manager learned it by roundabout talk, so why was he also struck? Mere coincidence, or did he count as an illegal gratifier too? And if learning by degrees counted as illegal, besides the manager had Din Tian not told others? After the manager learned it, did he treat it as a joke and pass it on? If the game spread like a cold and a little carelessness broadcasted, then its diffusion throughout the Federation would be only a matter of time. From philosophy class she knew not every question has an answer. Think too long and you may not figure it out, but overusing the brain surely brings a headache. So she cheerfully stopped thinking, changed into her usual comfortable clothes, and went out to stroll alone. It was a weekday morning and the streets were empty. She went to the cinema and bought a ticket. Notably, the cinema sold admission tickets, meaning you entered first and sat wherever there was a free seat. If no one had gone in before her, the whole theater was hers to choose. She picked a seat in the back rows, sipped a drink, and munched popcorn. Because it was work hours, the audience was pitifully few, and those few might not even be watching the same film. With a single ticket, she sat alone in the screening room and savored the joy of having the place to herself. She watched 5 consecutive showings, stepped out to eat when hungry and returned to continue. By the time the last one ended it was 9 o'clock at night. 5 in a row. My mood is much better, she drawled as she headed toward her rented place in the urban village quarter, a notorious poor district in the city, with many shortcuts and mixed crowds, and generally not advised for going out after dark. But with skill and nerve she was unafraid and walked at ease. After a while she sensed something off. Ahead, not far, why was there a young woman of about 25 to 26, out alone at night strolling the alleys, and she was dolled up, a dress over the knee on top, leggings below, black shoes, tea-black wavy curls, and makeup set on her face. Now she was walking slowly in a side lane, seemingly unaware of the lurking danger. Van Han quickened her pace and gently warned, "Security here is bad, you should head home." The girl with dark tea curls turned, eyeing her oddly. "Aren't you also out alone late at night?" Van Han offered a casual excuse, "I'm strong, learned some martial arts, not afraid of bad guys." "Thanks for the warning, I'm not afraid either," the curly-haired girl smiled. "I'll stroll a bit more, you go ahead." She walked deeper into the alley. Van Han had already advised once and did not plan to again, yet after a few steps she stopped, hesitated, then decided to follow. She did not fear the other dying, she feared the other living worse than death. Elsewhere, the curly-haired girl wandered into a dead end and, turning around, saw a gang blocking her way. The leader drawled, "Out here instead of sleeping, bored are we?" "We're bored too, come play with us." The curly-haired girl smiled faintly, "All right." Because the alleys crisscrossed, Van Han was late by a couple of minutes and lost her. She darted through cutoffs but still did not see the curly-haired girl when distant cries rang out, and she sprinted over. On the ground lay several thugs, while three more hovered around the curly-haired girl barking, "Come any closer and we won't be polite." Before the threat ended, the mouthy one was flipped by the curly-haired girl and slammed down. "Why is there another one? Are they a whole group?" As they spoke, a groaning thug leapt up and charged at Van Han. She drove a knee to his midline, seized his wrist, and locked him. "Why are you here?" The curly-haired girl froze a heartbeat on seeing Van Han. Noticing her distraction, a thug pulled a small knife and lunged from behind. "Behind you!" Van Han shouted and flung her captive like a human dart, which crashed into the knife wielder and the two tumbled in a heap. The curly-haired girl regained focus, dropped the last man, then chatted with Van Han. "What brings you here?" "I was worried." Van Han swept a glance over 7 or 8 men howling in pain, loud enough to disturb residents, "though it seems I worried for nothing. I did not need help, but thank you anyway." The curly-haired girl laughed boldly. Perhaps the commotion was too big and someone secretly called the police. Sirens wailed, cars braked at the junction, officers spilled out shouting, "Freeze!" The punks wailed like ghosts. One hugged a policeman's thigh and sobbed, "Why are you only now here?" "I robbed, I stole for money, I surrender." "Oh," leaving officers stunned. The captain chopped his hand, "Take them away," and they were hauled off. A policewoman approached the little crowd and, finding only 2 school-age girls standing, asked gently, "Injured anywhere? Need the hospital first or come straight to the station for statements?" "Not injured." The curly-haired girl shook her head. "I'll go give a statement," and Van Han said, "Me too." Right then a translucent interface popped up. "Congratulations, player has cleared side quest numbered 123,032, alley robbery incident, luck persists. This pass is rated D. No attribute reward since not at grade S or above. Things stayed normal until the station, where a cop blurted out at a glance, "Ning Lu, you again?" At that, the thug's expressions toward the curly-haired girl turned strange. The one hugging the leg trembled. "Do you moonlight delivering packages to the station?" "Watch your mouth," the captain barked, then asked sternly, "What happened?" The cop who slipped explained honestly, "Her name is Ning Lu, she's been here 7 times this month, every time for walking at night and getting waylaid by hooligans who try to rob her." Ning Lu teared up, covering part of her face. "I don't know why they won't leave me alone, they see me alone and weak, stop me for money, sometimes even lay hands on me." Van Han, having seen this weak girl flatten 8 men, nodded along, "Shameless, preying on girls. Officer, you must uphold justice for us." With the bad guys already down, the captain was speechless. "I bet she fishes outside and delivers them in." The thigh hugger bawled louder, "Had we known you were baiting, we would not have stopped you." And the others, smarting and aching, started howling too. "What bait? Who is baiting?" Ning Lu sobbed, "I just like walking at night, where am I wrong?" "Officer," Van Han said seriously, "lucky we met her and know some self-defense, or this could have turned ugly. If it were another girl getting off late and being blocked." The sentence trailed but all got the point. A veteran cop, head throbbing, rolled a newspaper and thwacked them one by one. "What are you yelling for? 8 men can't beat 2 girls and you still have the face to wail." The thugs gaped then shut up. Truth be told, it was not 8 on 2 but 8 on 1, and that one alone laid them all out. Statements were taken and the conclusion came quickly. Group offense, attempted highway robbery, the victims acted in justifiable defense. She clearly baited enforcement. "How is she a victim?" the leader protested. "Don't think I don't know. I just asked around. This month alone she sent in 7 batches, and our total headcount exceeds 40, and he ranted, I even suspect she suffered misfortune and hates men, doing this on purpose. Ninglu burst into louder tears. When I meet a strange girl at night, she worries about my safety and urges me home. When I meet a strange man, he either wants money, or lust, or both. If I fight back when the man is unreliable, I get accused of hating men. Well, what a world. I treat men and women equally. If a woman blocked the road to harass me, I would resist just the same. It is just rare. It is simply that the bad ones I meet are all men. What can I do? Do not slap labels on victims. The veteran cop tapped the leader's head with the paper roll. Baited enforcement means officers. She is a civilian. Does not fit. The leader bristled. She strolls alone at night in a slum. Is that normal? Ninglu wept again. I am a citizen of the Federation. Do I not even have the right to walk? I cannot sleep. I only want fresh air. She did not approach you first. When and where she walks and whether alone is none of your business, the veteran said. Whereas you calculated that she is a girl and alone and thought your odds were high. The leader froze. How did it become the whole city saying we are wrong? He sprang up in a rage. The veteran pressed him back with one hand and grumbled. Last time I caught a serial killer, he also claimed the victim feigned frailty to lure him. Turned out they were elders or the sick. He tried to speak, but the veteran covered his mouth and told the 2 victims, all right, record's done, you 2 may go. Only when they were far enough that the station gate was out of sight did Ninglu wipe her tears and resume a normal tone. You reacted fast and even coordinated with me. All I saw was 8 men bullying 1 girl, said Van Han. Be careful, not every time ends so luckily. I am not afraid, Ninglu said solemnly. I train my body. They can think in prison. Residents will enjoy a safer neighborhood. Girls working late will not be harassed. Everyone will have a bright future. And what if someone with a rare gift like you, especially good at fighting, shows up? Asked Van Han, which left Ninglu speechless a long while. Van Han waved and ambled home. Next day, Van Han received an interview notice from a gold shop. Reading it, she recalled that when she first moved to the harbor city she had indeed applied for a sales position there. The company was simply slow. After sending off the star-chasing boss and then the badly injured boss to recuperate, the shop finally emailed to invite her. Since fate meets, go take a look. The interview was set right in the first floor hall. Because Van Han's looks and bearing were good, the manager asked a few questions and decided to hire. First month as trainee, if you perform well, the second month you become official. Van Han nodded meekly. Come, I'll take you around the store. The manager rose. Just then 3 people in black hoods burst in with machetes. Nobody move, this is a robbery. Customers choosing jewelry screamed and dove into corners. Only money. No harm, everyone behave, one shouted while the other 2 cracked the glass cases and swept gold into bags. A clerk tried to press the panic button while they were distracted. The button hid under the counter and the robbers were hurriedly packing, so in theory they would not notice, yet the instant her hand moved, a robber chopped down with his blade. Stand still, understand. The counter glass shattered, crystals skittered. The clerk hugged her head in terror. I understand, I did nothing. In about 3 minutes the cases were stripped. As they rushed the door, the one holding a hostage jolted from crunching shards underfoot, grabbed roughly, and yanked a clerk in front his shield. Shots cracked. The clerk was hit in the shoulder and fell groaning, while one robber took a bullet in the thigh and bled profusely. Chapter 36, Not a Double Update, Part 2. Fire again and I will kill her. The kidnapper hid behind the injured shop assistant and shouted a threat. Because he held a hostage the police dared not act rashly. Knowing the wounded clerk had not gone far, he meant to swap hostages. His gaze roamed the store, then locked on Van Han and he strode over to seize her. At the same time one accomplice, clutching a thigh wound, collapsed and could not rise. Another tried to lift the injured friend. In a flash a tall male student lunged at the kidnapper to pin him, but the man reacted fast and slashed back with a knife. The unexpected happened. The blade struck the tall student's arm yet he was unscathed, not even a nick on his skin. The kidnapper stared dumbfounded and blurted, "You." Seizing his daze, Van Han grabbed a chair and smashed it over his head. The kidnapper fell with a thud and passed out. Seeing this the tall student dove and subdued the only robber still moving. Roaring, "Call the police now." The store manager frantically hit the emergency alarm. Staff dialed for an ambulance and for the police, thus the situation was essentially contained. The door opened and 2 officers entered and cuffed the 3 robbers. One of the officers grumbled, "It is almost my wedding anniversary and I just wanted to buy a piece of jewelry for my wife. How did I run into this?" I had not even reached the gold shop when a passerby pulled me aside saying robbers had rushed in, so that was why the alarm had not even blared and yet police arrived so quickly. The robbers regretted it bitterly. After a bout of chaos the robbers were taken away. The clerk who was shot was sent to the hospital.
and the tall student and Van Han were asked to the station for statements. Name: Van Han. Age: 24. Why were you at the scene?
For an interview. The manager had just decided to hire me and was about to show me around when the robbers burst in.
It was extremely dangerous, they had knives. Why did you think of fighting back under such circumstances?
Van Han answered, I am naturally strong and learned martial arts as a child. I know how to make someone lose mobility. Since I had the ability and the chance, I acted.
The answer was reasonable and coherent. The police quickly finished the record and let her go. Elsewhere, unable to withstand round-robin questioning, the robbers confessed. The one wounded in the leg, named Zhang Chang, a habitual loafer, believed Lu Feng's nonsense and came to rob. Zhang Chang wept. Lu Feng said the gold shop owner had a shady background and even if the store was robbed he would not dare report it.
We only needed to scare the staff a little and run off with jewelry, then melt the gold into bars. He would also handle wiping the trail so we would all become rich. The police barked, what nonsense, how is the gold shop owner not clean? Zhang Chang confessed honestly. Lu Feng said the owner secretly fenced illicit goods, whether grave-robbed ornaments or bracelets of unclear origin he would buy. Once the furnace is opened and the gold is melted into bars, nobody knows these were originally stolen.
Hearing this, the officers exchanged looks, realizing a big fish
had bitten the hook. The sensational gold shop robbery drew to a close. Investigation showed the ringleader Lu Feng had antisocial personality traits. He deliberately incited his accomplices to rob and during pursuit pushed a hostage forward as a meat shield. The vile impact of his acts led to a heavy sentence. The two accomplices had merely been misled and did not injure anyone,
so given their lesser culpability they were treated with leniency. In theory the matter ended there, yet online
discussion stayed hot. I was on site and it felt uncanny. When the ringleader shoved, the hostage was instantly used as a shield to block the shot, as if he had foreseen danger would strike. Staff also said the panic button was very well hidden. I had just meant to press it quietly when it was noticed at once. How? The do-gooder was strange too. A male student was slashed yet completely fine. Is that possible? How did he do that? The authorities then issued a rumor refuting note saying the robbers' knives were not real but props. Only then did people suddenly understand. Half a month later a fresh hot topic appeared and the robbery was gradually forgotten. Some involved parties could not forget no matter what. Van Han for one. On the one hand, she received an interface notification, congratulations player, on surviving an instance numbered 123,059. The gold shop calamity case, and this clearance rating is B and no attribute reward is S or above was not achieved. On the other hand, she never expected that after the robbery the shop owner would enter prison together with the robbers to sit at sewing machines. Rumor had it this came from the robbers' trending chatter. The police followed the lead and found the owner indeed had illegal acts, so they arrested him too. In the end the store was sealed. The owner and the robbers became next-cell neighbors, while Van Han lost her job. Is this not a bit too much? She deadpanned. Interview passed. Then the moment she started she escorted the boss to jail. Other people work caring not who the boss is as long as they earn money. She works caring not about money as long as she delivers the boss to prison. At this moment she did not bother musing whether superpowered folks were appearing more often. Her head was filled with one thought: this kind of job really burns through bosses. After 2 more days off, Van Han received a call from President Duong's wife. Little Van, I heard you resigned. Want to come work for me? Van Han fell silent. She truly had a good impression of the lady. If she were an ordinary person she would accept without hesitation. The problem was her accident magnet constitution. Accepting might be returning kindness with calamity. I want to rest for a while, she hedged. No problem. Come when you are ready, the lady said breezily. I do not know why, but I feel close to you at first sight. This must be what people call a good match in temperament. If it were anyone else I would not even bother to ask. That was what they call an invitation too earnest to refuse. Van Han feigned difficulty and sought a pretext. Ma'am, does President Duong know? Earlier I blocked him from drinking and he seemed to hold a bit of a grudge. The fact that old Duong is still alive is thanks to you. If he dares touch you I will not spare him, the lady said fiercely. Do not be afraid, come with ease, I have your back. Van Han was at a loss for words. The lady kept coaxing. Our family runs a supermarket chain, you can join as a buyer, just handle selecting goods. Is that not better than clinking glasses with clients every day? Old Duong says you knew he was a client yet dared stop him drinking, which shows you are not afraid of power and dare to tell the truth. Before this he liked people who covered for him and never stopped him, counted them as family. After this stint in the hospital he finally sobered up and recognized who truly acts for his good. Without health what use is money? He was muddle-headed before, and she began nagging about her husband again. Van Han knew best that her family's matters were clear to her: the drinking block and the stomach perforation and the ambulance run. That very night were a string of coincidences that happened to make her lauded as not fearing power. If nothing had happened that night, it might have been another story and she could have been judged as having poor judgment. I am inviting you with such sincerity. Give me some face, the lady added. At that point, refusing would be impolite. Van Han smiled. Since you insist, I will accept. That is the spirit. Tell me when you are free and I will arrange your onboarding. Then I will not rest. I will start tomorrow. At dawn the next day, the lady personally brought Van Han to the company. We are a comprehensive supermarket, selling home and general goods. Normally old Duong picks suppliers and the buying team places orders. Because goods are many and miscellaneous, we set up a dedicated purchasing department. There are 3 staff now, and with you it makes 4. The work is not hard but demands meticulousness. If you run into trouble, tell me. She led Van Han around and then delivered her to the department. This is the new hire, Van Han. Everyone get acquainted as you will be colleagues. The 3 at their computers looked up. Ahem. The only female buyer somehow choked and coughed a fit. The lady introduced Lu Vin Suong, a veteran who has worked here for over 10 years, Don Hang, a fresh graduate who joined 4 months ago, and Nin Lo, recruited by education intake and already 3 years here. Hello everyone, Van Han greeted politely. Just then someone hurried over to fetch the lady about an issue. She told Van Han, familiarize yourself first, I will check that matter. All right. Once she left, the others relaxed. Lu Vin Suong asked first, how were you brought in by the boss's wife? She is kind. I helped her a little and she recommended me. So that was it. He warmly invited Van Han to sit by him and watch. Purchasing handles daily selection. The company requires standardized ordering. Watch me do one run and you will get it. Great, I will learn quickly. Van Han accepted humbly. Nin Lo kept her face to the monitor, pretending deep focus. In truth, half an hour passed with progress stuck. For only one reason, she could not concentrate. Her mind buzzed with the thought that the person she met on a moonlight-side gig at night had now appeared at her day job. What kind of ill-fated tie was this? At noon, after lunch, Van Han was heading back when a hand reached out and dragged her into a corner. Seeing no danger, she did not resist. In the shadow, Nin Lo asked anxiously, how did you end up working here? I told you, the lady offered me the job. That night's matter, Nin Lo faltered, unsure how to broach it. That night, Van Han blinked. You mean going out for a walk, unluckily running into bad guys, and having to give a statement at the station late at night? Before Nin Lo could answer, she soothed her, do not dwell on it. When bad luck comes, it simply looks like that. Nin Lo had worried her nighttime side job would be known and reflect poorly, but Van Han lightly smoothed it over for her, and Nin Lo was moved to tears. Oh, she is truly a good person. Van Han, they say not a double update yet. I am not idle at all. Hashtag death like the wind, ofted my side. Hashtag do not fabricate too earnestly please. New readers will take it as real. TSK tisk. Half a month flashed by, and to her surprise, Van Han found the new company not bad at all. Fewer colleagues meant simpler relationships. The workload was light and easy to get the hang of, and there was hardly anything to fret about. A cold wave is about to hit. It will sweep through many cities and push the lows below zero. With the busy spell over and a rare lull in the office, Ning Lo openly scrolled the news and related. A few months back, a city had an earthquake. Remember, they said. The houses all collapsed. Luckily, the government sent people to build temporary housing and settled the victims. Otherwise, this winter folks would freeze to death. In the past, building codes did not require quake resistance. But for the rebuild, I hear they raised the safety bar. New homes at minimum must resist a magnitude 8 quake. Those victims are blessed then, though who knows what month or year those houses will be finished, marveled Lu Vinsuong. By then they can move into brand new places, right? Don Hang said gloomily. If given a choice, they might not even want new houses. For those who bought their own place, life meant being busy and on time for work each day. Not exactly filthy rich, but not starving or freezing either. A kind of ordinary happiness. That is not a fair way to put it. Lu Vin Suong disagreed. They suffered a disaster, but like the old tale of the horse lost and later found, misfortune can flip to fortune. Grit through a few tough years, and later, living in a new home with a new job, life will smooth out. You really envy them? Asked Ning Lo. I do, Lu Vin Suong admitted. After graduation, I lived frugally for 5 or 6 years and finally dared to take a loan for a second-hand apartment, then marriage, then a child, and I found the old place truly uncomfortable. I wanted to upgrade, check prices, and the new builds were so expensive it scared a man to death. After so many bitter years, I still could not afford a new home. Tell me that is not suffocating. I heard when victims' houses collapse, the government handles unified reconstruction. I even wish our city would have an earthquake so my own place would just get shaken down. Ning Lo fell silent, and Don Hang said nothing either.
while Lu Vin Suan kept sighing, looking wildly envious. Van Han paid them no mind. She was carefully checking her calendar, counting and recounting until she confirmed that today truly marked the 15th day since she
books
started, and she could not help but sigh. It had been so long since she had lasted a half-month at one company. This firm was tough and refreshingly solid. There is a saying, joy begets sorrow. By day Van Han had just rejoiced at surviving more than 15 days at the new company, and that night she slipped into a nightmare. She rarely dreamed, yet tonight she not only dreamed but not of some twisty strange tale. She remembered her childhood. Not long after she was born, Van Han displayed an extraordinary talent as a shaman girl. Her mother worried the daughter would bring ill luck to a partner, so from early on sent the child to be raised by grandmother. Grandmother was a famed local shaman, the well-heeled often paid generously to invite her to dispel calamity, turn away malice, and bless peace. When grandmother set out it was for a whole day, sometimes with no telling when she would return, and since she liked living alone and would not hire a minder, she simply took Van Han along each time. Gradually, employers noticed that at times the child's casual remark while the shaman worked proved even more precise than the shaman's own divinations. Rather than shun the presence of a child, some even skipped asking grandmother in turn to seek guidance from Van Han. In time the girl's name spread, money stuffed her pockets, and at school she was ostracized. Grown-ups say they are only children, yet children can be keen, some knowing clearly who can be bullied and who cannot. Van Han was little, a girl, thin and slight, with parents not by her side and only a grandmother who did work that seemed uncanny, so she naturally became a target. One day as she sat dazing by the riverbank, for boys ran over, the ringleader put on an old man air and said, "We heard your grandma is a witch who curses people. No one dares live near her house. Is that true?" "My grandma is a shaman who helps people shed bad luck and saves lives, not someone who harms." Van Han explained point by point. No one lives nearby because that area was being cleared for redevelopment. Folks took compensation and moved into new buildings. Grandmother refused to relocate, and the developer, once saved by her, chose in the end not to demolish her block during the clearance. "Lies," the ringleader snapped. "Your grandma is a great witch and you are a little witch. If she does not like someone she curses them." He shoved Van Han hard, yet she did not so much as stagger and he himself tumbled to the dirt wailing. "You said you were not a witch, but you know witchcraft." Van Han, her face sank and her voice lowered. "Well, since you found me out, I will have to curse you, not only you, but your parents, your grandparents, even the little dog you keep. I will not spare a single one. Provoke a witch and pay a heavy price." The children gaped, then with one collective cry fled in tears, not understanding at all that her curse meant. "I draw you a circle as a token, just enough to scare." Once they were chased off she went back to staring at the water, and after a while another boy jogged up to ask, "Do you really know no witchcraft?" After so many failed attempts to quash rumors she said, "I say I do not, and you lot will not believe." On hearing she did not, the boy deflated, dropped beside her, and sighed, "If only you did." Must you pin your hopes on a curse? Can ordinary means not solve it? She could not fathom what boys this age were thinking. "My dad drinks, and when drunk he beats people." My mom could not take it and ran off with someone. The boy lacked any notion that family ugliness should not be aired, and poured out his troubles. "With mom gone he beats me." I tried to complain to other adults, neighbors, and the street director all came to persuade him, and each time he played nice in front of them, but a few days later he was the same as ever and hit even harder. I tried running away, but before long someone would bring me back. If I cannot make him choke to death, sooner or later he will beat me to death. With that he rolled up his sleeve to show an arm blotched purple. Van Han was stunned. She was only 11 and had no idea what to do. "How about you come back with me and put some medicine on first? When grandma returns I will ask her for a plan." That was the best a child of 11 could think of. "Okay." The boy showed not a trace of fear and followed her casually to the so-called witch's house. She fed him, cleaned his wounds, sent him to bathe, and after he ate his fill the two waited together for grandmother. It was near dark when grandmother came home, and on hearing the boy's story she was heartsore yet helpless. Even a shaman must obey the law, and at that time the Federation's laws were imperfect. Outsiders could only persuade and could not interfere in another family's affairs. The boy felt crestfallen but still thanked them politely. Afterwards Van Han asked around on purpose and learned the boy's name was Tu Due, a year older than she and in the same grade. His father, it turned out, was worse than the boy had said, drunk all day, idle, and quick to strike when displeased. The child went hungry at times, his clothes filthy with no one to wash them, and even clean had nothing to change into, so he wore them again, and over time he smelled off, was shunned at school, and then bullied by other boys. For the first time Van Han had seen a child worse off than herself, so she took her pocket money to ask grandmother, since his father neglects him,
Can I raise him? Grandmother thought a night and agreed, and so she cared for the boy like a little pup, fed him, bought him new clothes, and made him scrub clean, while for the first time in her life she very seriously drew spirals in a little notebook to curse the father of Tu Dewey. Alas, she was no professional, and months went by without the slightest effect. Just as she felt a failure, she saw a black mist on the man, death coiling the body, which usually meant that within 1 to 3 days the person would pass. It was the first time she had seen death on another and felt no urge to act, no warning, no rescue, even a wish that it would hasten. She could not wait to bring this good news to Tu Dewey, but the next day when she saw him he wore fresh injuries, even on his face. The man normally cared only about appearances and would not strike a child in the face, as if he believed that so long as the face bore no marks no one would know he abused his son and no one would come nag him. I do not think I will live much longer. Tears welled from Tu Dewey's eyes, yet he stubbornly set his mouth. If one day I am dead, help me prosecute him. She hugged him and whispered at his ear, hold on a little more, 3 days at most and this will be over. He said nothing, only returned the embrace. It did not even take 3 days. The very next day the father of Tu Dewey died. The cause was alcohol poisoning. Turns out he spent all day drunk and did not work. The family wealth slowly bled away. There was no money, but he still craved drink. And who knows who told him that industrial alcohol was cheap and smelled like liquor, so he bought several measures and took them home to drink, and he drank himself to death. They said that on the day of the funeral a man sobbed before the tablet. I was only joking. How could you really buy it, and then drink so much in one go without even a sip of water? Whatever the case, Tu Dewey was free at last, just as Van Han rolled up her sleeves to raise her little pup properly. The boy's aunt jumped out to claim guardianship. Grandmother said that by law, if parents were gone and relatives were willing, then kin should raise the child. Van Han meant to yield, telling herself that so long as he lived well it was fine not to live with her, but blood is blood, and after only a few days at his aunt's house, new welts appeared on the boy's body. She had educated him with a feather duster for poor behavior. Van Han asked, does she use a feather duster to educate her own son? Tu Dewey shook his head. No. Good. Hard fists then. Van Han lay awake a whole night, thought up many plans and rejected them one by one, and at last compiled a few reliable ones to try and turn. First she wrote a promissory note and had Tu Dewey sign it, then took it to the aunt's door. Before, when his father neglected him, he ate at my house, lived at my house, and wore the clothes I provided. Now that you are his guardian, and since you were so kind, please settle the account. The aunt at first thought little of it, but when she saw the sum her eyes nearly popped. What did he eat? Dragon liver and phoenix marrow. Why does he owe 500,000? Clothes were bespoke, food was hotel boxed meals, lodging was a villa. Receiving this much is not excessive. Van Han named sky-high prices with a perfectly straight face. Beside her Tu Dewey nodded fiercely. 500,000 should be paid. From his look, he not only recognized the debt but wished to add more. Livid, the aunt kicked the boy out that very night, and other relatives, afraid of accepting a burden, refused guardianship in turn. At last the boy could live in Van Han's home and share daily life with her. On the first day he moved in she gave the promissory note back, smiling. The bad ones have been forcibly relocated by me. From now on no one will dare bully you. That year, Xiao Dewey and Yun Han entered middle school. Freed from the suffocating family, Xiao Dewey ate well, slept soundly, his mind quickened and his strength grew. Run! The cursed witch girl and her hounds are coming, someone shouted, and the crowd scattered. Yun Han flared, I told you, it's witch girl, not girl witch. But no one listened. They ignored all explanations and loved to make things up. Everyday staging scenes Yun Han had never lived through, leaving her exhausted, wondering why people around her were like this, deaf to truth, lost in their own judgments. Xiao Dewey found it amusing. Each time hearing that nickname, he laughed happily, making Yun Han suspect she had raised a fool. After some time, one afternoon after class, they walked home together and were blocked halfway by a group of boys, the leader sturdy and broad, grinning maliciously at Xiao Dewey. Long time no see. Didn't expect you'd turn out like this, that your girl's quite pretty. Move. Xiao Dewey shielded Yun Han, stopping their lewd eyes. Who do you think you are to tell us to move? The leader snarled, and the fight broke out instantly. In the end, 5 boys lay beaten and bruised, crying for their mothers, while Xiao Dewey wasn't much better, his face scratched and bruised, fists imprinted. Yun Han gently wiped his wounds and led him home. Next day, they were called into the teacher's office. How could you rely on strength and use violence on your classmates? The teacher scolded. Xiao Dewey corrected, they ganged up to beat me. Yun Han glanced and saw the same ringleader standing there, his face purple and blue, pitiful to see, lying right before me. The teacher fumed, he's the one beaten like this, how could he be the bully? Xiao Dewey pressed his lips in silence, then Yun Han burst into loud tears. He's bad, he wanted to bully me, so Xiao Dewey hit him.
teacher helps the bad guy, teacher is bad too. I'll find the police uncle to judge. The teacher panicked, kids quarreling was one thing, but police? Turning to the accuser, is that true? Did you really try to bully this girl? The beaten boy flustered, blushing, stammering, no. We just wanted to fight Xiaoduwei, not do anything pervy. The teacher instantly caught the lie. So you started it, 5 against 1 and failed, yet you come to complain? Shameful. We just wanted to teach him a lesson, the boy muttered, bullying classmates, right reflection. Bad kids first to accuse, call your parents. The teacher snapped, no, teacher, we were wrong, please filled the room. Yunhan pulled Xiaoduwei out quietly. Don't cry, Xiaoduwei awkwardly comforted, trying to wipe her tears with his sleeve, but the next second, her eyes cleared, voice calm, fool, next time don't slap the face, hit hidden spots, painful but no marks. Xiaoduwei blinked, seeing his dumb look, Yunhan sighed. Good people get bullied easily, you must learn to protect yourself, make the bad fall but leave them no excuse, like you just did. Yes, is that really okay? The innocent must live well, why not? If wrong, then it's the world wrong, forcing good people to bend. Months later, that same boy drowned after falling into a puddle at night. His parents wept brokenhearted. When grandma heard, she called Yunhan. You two aren't even in the same class, didn't you see death aura around him? Yunhan could have said no, but she chose truth. I saw. Why didn't you tell? I didn't want to. Kneel, gentle grandma, first time furious. You are no god. You can't decide who lives or dies. Yunhan unmoving, I'm a mere mortal. Why must I always snatch people from death's hand? Respecting the destined dead, is that not okay? Grandma speechless, you always saved people before, never thought like this, I obeyed you before, now I think for myself, I don't agree, I think even witches should judge who to save, good ones deserve chances, bad ones don't. That boy was just a child, what right to call him bad? He bullied Xiaoduwei again and again, refused to apologize, naughty kids grow into bad adults, he won't take responsibility, no remorse. I closed my eyes, pretended not to see, witches lead people from disaster. That's our duty, aren't you ashamed of your bloodline? Grandma roared. Then the bloodline chose wrong coming to me. Yunhan argued, some good die early, some evil never caught, I'm just not so saintly, so what? Grandma thundered, go kneel in the ancestral hall, until I say rise. Yunhan went, Xiaoduwei sneaked to kneel beside, asking, was it because of me she scolded you? No, other reasons, she explained, I don't want to follow her anymore, she can't see why I'm cold, difference in ideals will clash, simply too far apart, she's so angry. What if she never forgives? I'm not scared, I've got my savings, if it goes wrong, I'll leave and live elsewhere, then take me with you. Okay, they even planned their future, where to go, how to live. Grandma, fearing her knees hurt from kneeling, went to look, but overheard them hearing Yunhan say adults only care for money, I've got pocket money, millions, once I reach 18, even if she finds me, she can't stop me, and Xiaoduwei praising you're smart, plan better than me. That's, she hadn't finished when bam. The door burst, grandma dark-faced, up, we talk, Yunhan signaled Xiaoduwei not to kneel silly, rose and followed, they sat down, grandma intending a heart talk, tell me, what's on your mind? Yunhan pondered then asked, if I have foresight but pretend not to, never told, never saved, am I guilty? No, power and used is no sin, if I use it rarely, saving few, guilty? No, if I save not all, just 80%, guilty? Grandma hesitated, but Yunhan cut in, if before was innocent but later guilty, isn't it because saving too often becomes duty? Yet I never owed that. Grandma silent long, then sighed, I never thought that way, I just treat all life equally, save if I can. Persistence isn't always right, when you foresee a friend's death but can't save, don't you regret in dreams? No. Saving one is one virtue, can't save means one less virtue, not a debt. Air went still, then grandma sighed deeply, perhaps, you're right. Years later, Yunhan turned 18, passed college entrance for another city, grandma fell ill. She wanted to take her to big hospital, grandma refused, NK don't bother, books. It's heart sickness, I keep thinking of those I couldn't save, always blaming myself, acquaintances either dead or distant, only you and Xiaoduwei remain, now I feel our gifts not blessing but curse, maybe pretending blind from start was right, I'm tired, dying, she whispered, take this as warning, don't follow my steps, I won't, I'm not you. Yunhan said, cold and detached, not overkind like her, not sociable, she avoided crowds, spoke deep only with grandma and Xiaoduwei, good at grandma closed her eyes. Yunhan awoke from nightmare, turned lamp on, dawn barely 4, long time since I dreamed of the past, she murmured, washed her face, then sat awake, sleep gone. Because of a nightmare, Van Han woke up early and went to the office at dawn. After a while, colleagues came one after another,
and as soon as Ning Lo entered she sensed something was off and asked, "Why do you look so tired today?" "Bad dream last night, didn't sleep well," Van Han replied while sipping coffee to stay awake. Ning Lo encouraged, "Luckily things aren't too busy lately, go home early tonight and get some good rest. Once you've slept well your energy will come back." Van Han smiled, a simple exchange that would have ended there, but Lu Vin Suong suddenly cut in, "Even if you don't sleep well, you must try harder to sleep, otherwise how can you stay focused at work?" Van Han froze. Ning Lo shot him a look that clearly said please shut up, yet he didn't get it and continued, "When life throws difficulties at you, you must learn to overcome them yourself, don't let them affect your job." "I know." Van Han replied softly, "You should also try your best to grow your hair back." Ning Lo burst out laughing and quickly turned away while Lu Vin Suong's face flushed. "This is just a middle-aged haircut, perfectly normal." Van Han smiled gently, "When you have a problem, find it early, diagnose early, treat early, middle-aged hair loss isn't serious, it can be cured." Furious, Lu Vin Suong snapped, "I'm going to get coffee," and left. "You're amazing." Ning Lo's eyes sparkled with admiration as she looked at Van Han, who only frowned in confusion. "What's wrong with him?" "I didn't even say anything, why lecture me?" Ning Lo sighed, "Not your fault, he's always like that, no matter what happens he just keeps telling people to overcome it." Van Han nodded, "Some things can be fixed, some can't, but he doesn't care, he forces people to overcome anyway, and if they can't, he blames them for being lazy or careless." Don't Hang joined in, "I inherited depression, so it's harder for me to regulate emotions, when something bad happens I take longer to get over it. He knows this but still says I'm too weak, that I can't handle small troubles, but it's exactly because I lack that strength that I get sick. If anyone could easily overcome it, they'd be called healthy." They all chuckled bitterly. It's like catching a cold and having him say you only got a runny nose because you didn't try hard enough to stop it. Maybe one day if he burns with a 40-degree fever he'll think it's because he didn't try hard enough too. Ning Lo burst out laughing. Don't Hang finished, "Just ignore him, pretend you didn't hear." Van Han fell silent, though not truly hurt. The man's words still left her uneasy inside. December came with freezing winds as if winter swept in overnight. Just days ago Ning Lo was laughing at him, but now she herself had caught a cold, her nose dripping uncontrollably. "Great, now I'll get nagged again," she groaned. Don't Hang handed her medicine. "Take this, your nose is all red." Van Han quietly passed her a mist bottle. "You might need some moisturizer." Ning Lo teared up. "You too or so?" Sweet, her nose red and sore, skin cracked from dryness, while others were fine. Lu Vin Suong was still the most unbearable. Thinking of him, she clenched her teeth. "If he dares nag me now, I'll curse him." Just then Lu Vin Suong entered, sniffing loudly, and Ning Lo felt oddly comforted. If he's sick too, surely he won't say anything. But the next second he set down his bag, pulled tissues to plug his nostrils and said, "Even when life's hard, you can't let it affect work, small problems can always be overcome." Ning Lo nearly exploded. Don't Hang muttered, "Didn't think he'd be this ruthless." Van Han watched the dark fog coiling around him and thought, endure it, maybe what he can't overcome is about to arrive. The morning dragged on. Lu Vin Suong leaned on his hand and asked, "How are you?" "Why does my head feel a bit dizzy?" Ning Lo, voice nasal, replied, "Aside from the mountain of tissues, I'm fine, still working." Hoping to preempt his motivational speech, he nodded weakly, "Seems I'm worse, I'll buy some medicine at lunch," then left. Don't Hang observed, he looked weak, even swayed a bit standing up. Van Han checked her phone, "Just saw an alert, this flu outbreak's serious, pharmacies are sold out, people say they've gone to 3 stores and still can't find medicine, they're furious online." The two exchanged looks. Don't Hang raised his hand solemnly, "I'm willing to donate my medicine, give him a few pills so he can keep working." At noon, Lu Vin Suong ran to 4 pharmacies, all out of stock, only a notice read, "Cold medicine sold out, restock in 2 to 3 days, he sighed. What era is this, can't even buy flu meds? Worse, the winter wind bit hard, and running back and forth only worsened his illness. He considered taking half a day off to buy from the hospital when his good federal colleagues offered help. Don't Hang beamed, "Didn't find any?" "No problem, I've got some, take it," Ning Lo added. "No matter what, don't let it affect work. Today's busy but once you take it we 4 can still finish on time." Thinking that taking leave would force others to work overtime, he accepted, swallowed the pills with water, and returned to work. Half an hour later, his body felt heavy, head swollen, efficiency dropped to a fifth, an ache spreading through his body, breathing rapid. He asked, "Do you feel sore all over? Why would a cold make your body ache?" Ning Lo replied, "He couldn't explain." She said lightly, a bit of pain can be overcome, or take painkillers. Handing him some, he took them, but soon his brain turned to mush, sweat formed on his forehead, breath shallow. I think I can't hold on, he murmured, too weak to be heard, tried to call for help, but blacked out. Van Han looked up at that exact moment. Not good, he's fainted. The ambulance rushed in and carried him away. Ning Lo was stunned. He's the one always preaching hard work conquers all, yet look at him now. Don't hang worried. We made him stay and work sick. If something happens, will they blame us? Ning Lo was still dazed, didn't expect him to be this fragile, always mocking others for being weak. Turns out the weakest is him. I can at least last till I'm home. He couldn't last half a day. She saved his unfinished files, glimpsed the report and muttered, these numbers are a mess, efficiency worse than when I was ill. Van Han glanced at her phone again. News says several people were hospitalized. Common symptoms are headache, body pain, breathing trouble. Don Hang's heart skipped. Is this a new virus strain? I've never heard of a cold that makes your whole body hurt. Ning Lo frowned. Then why am I fine? Van Han shrugged. Who knows, scientists are researching it, seems widespread across the Federation. Ning Lo sighed. Whatever, with so many experts they'll find a cure soon. Right now we should just figure out how to finish all this before clockout. == 39 == 39. The four of them together could barely shoulder the load, split into three, no way to keep up. With quitting time looming, Van Han took the initiative and told Nin Lo, you head out first, I'll finish what's left, which made Nin Lo blink and blink again. I've been here so long and this is the first time I've heard that, and Van Han replied that taking a little extra care of someone sick was only normal, for in truth whenever she met the elderly, the weak, or the ill she always eased things. For them a touch. Don Hang muttered that Lu Vin Suan would never, and Nin Lo bobbed her head, he only knows you work hard. Then we all stay late, once it's done we all go, whereupon Van Han, who had never yet experienced an all-hands overtime, thought to herself how peculiar this firm was. Clutching her small handbag, torn between temptation and hesitation, Nin Lo asked if she really could leave first. Go on, rest well at home, said Van Han. A co-worker had suddenly collapsed during the day, indirectly causing a pile-up of tasks. That kind of sudden event comes but once in years, so she was willing to break routine and add an extra shift. Then I'll go, sniffled Nin Lo through a stuffed nose. Don't dally, off you go, said Don Hang, stretching. We've done 7 or 8 parts out of 10 already. I'll stay with Van Han another half hour and we'll be fine. And at that Nin Lo grabbed her bag and fled the office without a backward glance, leaving Van Han and Don Hang to share a smile and dive back into work. Because they lacked a strong pair of hands, and after the previous 3 days, Van Han, Nin Lo, and Don Hang had to go all out just to finish before quitting time. What timing, sighed Nin Lo again and again. He ran off right before a mountain of work. That's basically enjoying blessings. And Don Hang said helplessly, he's in the hospital, stop carping, his voice nasal, clearly under the weather too. If I don't thump him to vent, can't I at least grumble, she huffed, and he only said, try some forbearance, but she retorted, if bullied and you strike back, that's called repaying every grudge. If bullied and you do not, that's called weak and useless. If I must choose, I choose to repay every grudge, chatting away while her hands never slowed, making him sigh from the depths. During a lull, Van Han snuck a glance at the news. The latest showed fever cases soaring, hospitals near collapse, the media urging everyone to wash hands, exercise, raise personal fitness, strengthen resistance. Next day, she arrived on time and found yet another person missing, masked and miserable. Nin Lo said, this morning Don Hang called me, bad cold with a bit of fever. He asked for leave and can't make it, which startled Van Han. I saw reports saying a natural virus may have mutated unknown, so this round of colds tends to be more severe than usual, groaned Nin Lo, face like death. I asked him. He said his body's okay, just uncomfortable, rest a few days and he'll recover. Then the embedded adjunct was stripped away, but for flexible hands down to 2. Even if we camp here overnight we can't finish. Hold on, I'll ask the lady boss, said Van Han, with zero intent to force herself, and decisively called. The line picked up to a hoarse voice, hello, what is it? So hoarse she almost did not recognize her, and after a beat she explained, many items sold out, our purchasing lacks manpower, we can't reorder in time. To which the boss replied between chest-rattling coughs as if her lungs might come up after a long while subsiding, that several suppliers had told her their people were ill too and they could not ship. You two keep an eye on things, place orders where you can, if not then take it slow, this cold is too severe, lots of people are on leave. And Van Han said she understood and wished her good rest, then hung up. Well, asked the expectant Nin Lo, and Van Han answered that suppliers were short of hands and could not deliver, so contact all around. place where possible, and if they cannot ship then revisit in 2 days. Visibly relieved, Nin Lo said she would reach out at once, but as she picked up her phone she paused to look at Van Han. Have you really never caught a cold? And Van Han said offhandedly yes, her constitution was good and she usually did not catch fevers, to which Nin Lo said she had heard that once you recover you carry antibodies and are less likely to fall ill again. All the better, said Van Han, but Nin Lo's gaze turned unusually solemn. If you do catch one, remember to do lots of side gigs at night. Truly, I'm not lying, it works fast and well, which made Van Han's typing hand stop as she looked over and asked if these past few days after work she had been moonlighting. Nodded Nin Lo hard. First time the cold symptoms eased at once, second time, probably because I escorted fewer people, not much change, third time, basically recovered, which left Van Han momentarily dazed. From onset to now just a few days and already 3 rounds of moonlighting, days on the main job, nights running side jobs, a life a bit too rich, though a tad roguish. Thinking Van Han did not believe her, Nin Lo got anxious. I wouldn't lie about this, if it weren't you I wouldn't bother bringing it up, and she added that though she did not understand why escorting hooligans into the police station would clearly improve one's physical fitness, perhaps it was simply that good people are rewarded. She had even tried exercising at home for several days to no effect, then took a loop outside, accompanied a thug into the precinct, and upon returning home felt something had changed, which made Van Han marvel at how she had invented a whole rulebook for herself. In truth, Van Han realized, Nin Lo was an unknowing player who had stumbled on a way to grind attributes and thereafter tirelessly farm dungeons. It was not that doing good cured a cold, it was plainly, congratulations, player, you survived, reward attribute point, physique plus 0.1, the time with no effect likely rewarded spirit, so her body showed no obvious change. When did you notice your strength rising? Asked Van Han, and Nin Lo thought, one day I was shopping, just after crossing the street a chain traffic accident erupted at the intersection, I nearly got swept in, I was badly shaken and later at home the illness hit hard. From then on I seemed to hit super hard, a bit like a superwoman, and Van Han mused that every player probably had their own backstory. I've had something unbelievable too, she said, half true, half teasing. As a child I saved someone, then my strength grew, I ran especially fast, my constitution turned excellent, and from then on I hardly got sick, which left Nin Lo dumbfounded. So striking down evil earns rewards and saving people does too. The load of information so large she could not finish buffering. Maybe when thugs came for you, saving yourself counted as saving someone, Van Han suggested lightly, revealing the truth without making waves, and Nin Lo fell into thought. Because so many workers were on leave, manpower was gravely short and nearly half the suppliers could not ship. The two of them nailed down the remaining orders, compiled the reports, and barely finished before quitting time. Every day is a sprint between life and death, sighed Nin Lo, collapsing bonelessly in her chair. So tired, it feels like every coin I earn is soaked in sweat and blood. And Van Han joked that this was class exploitation, then said she would head out first. Go, go, waved the other weakly. On the street everyone hurried along, furry caps, scarves, gloves, books, armored from head to toe with not a sliver of skin exposed. Someone halted and sneezed, and within a radius of 5 meters the walkers vanished in a blink. Any who happened near yanked scarves tighter for fear of contagion. Head down and brisk, Van Han soon reached her rental, first stopping at the gatehouse to fetch her deliveries. Boxes were stacked neat as a small hill and the guard asked what she had bought to be so many. Food, drink, daily goods. Stock a bit, she said, and the guard nodded in understanding. With things like this lately, a person living alone should stash some, lest a sudden fever leave them weak and unable to go out to eat, at least with supplies they would not starve. Hauling 2 at a time and stacking in pairs, she shuttled back and forth several trips until everything was in. That night she turned on the heat, curled into a toasty quilt, and slept like a log. When she woke, the world had changed. The Chowkio Financial Group headquarters in City X was bathed in blood. 167 dead, 1 survivor, 6 missing. Chowkio is suspected of clandestine human experimentation. The official microblog has posted multiple self-evidencing videos. Was the Chowkio official account hacked? Are the posts tied to the mass killing? Superpowered videos on the official account? Human trials seem to have succeeded, and she thought, Chowkio Financial Group, was that not where Bok Vi worked? She tapped through one by one. The first item recounted that last night at 9 o'clock the tower housing Chowkio's headquarters suffered a terrorist assault. Staff still working overtime were nearly wiped out, with only a single lucky survivor. The second item, paired in a series, jumped to experiment footage. Like the retirement home project but worse, Chowkio not only did it, they filmed and archived it. The third item had people suspecting the poster and the killer were one and the same, reason being the posts went up a bit after 10 at night, right after the assault, ringing the account and password from staff. The Avenger posted for catharsis then killed to silence, logically coherent. The fourth series showed superhuman clips, a schoolgirl barehanded lifting a car, a boy running 100 meters in 8.57 seconds, an axe hewing a log only. For a man to block with his forearm without a hair harmed, a passerby suddenly blanching and jumping back, and 3 seconds later a flowerpot crashed down. Worst of all, the official account had strong engagement, many followers, so once the videos went up they were shared madly. One night later, who knew how many had watched, and the press churned out several different write-ups. Stunned, Van Hahn wondered how the evolution game would define this. Could these be counted among the unlawful? Gratitude seekers? When another push alert arrived, rage sparked the tragedy. According to the survivor, the assailant targeted a single person. He was the family of a human experiment victim who had repeatedly petitioned government agencies but was never heard. Driven to desperation, he personally punished Chow Kio, and the Federation erupted. I am the porter of the comments section. Hashtag I feel this story should not be called evolution game, but the heroine arrives, boss in peril. Hashtag, boss, the comments section understands me, aches in the bones with fever, yes, but not the new plague. Bakvai, director of a nursing home, under the Chow Kio Financial Group, premise from earlier adjusted, hashtag sending the boss off, late but at last. Hashtag